Tonight at TD Garden with Team USA facing Team Canada in a rematch of last Saturday night. There's a lot of firepower on both sides, but Connor McDavid does not expect a lot of goals to be scored.
There's a lot of respect there on both sides, I would say, for how the game could go. And neither team wants to open it up, I would say. So I would expect it to be a tight checking, low-scoring affair.
The U.S. had Austin Matthews and Matthew Tkachuk at practice yesterday, but they were without Brad Tkachuk, who is battling an illness. All three men are expected back in the lineup tonight. Norris Trophy winner Quinn Hughes will not join the team for this evening, but the U.S. reportedly has New Jersey defenseman Brett Pesce and Buffalo center Tage Thompson on standby if they're needed. As for the Bruins, they'll be back from the break Saturday night at home against Anaheim. There is mounting concern for defenseman Hampus Lindholm, who once again did not skate with the main group at practice yesterday. Celtics are back from the All-Star break tonight when they visit Philadelphia. Grandy and Max have the pregame at 6:30 and the tip-off at 7 here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Xavier Tillman, the only player listed, is out for this one. Former Celtic Jaden Springer has signed a 10-day contract with the Utah Jazz, and the Red Sox will continue their exhibition, or rather begin their exhibition season tomorrow afternoon in Fort Myers against Northeastern. Alex Cora announced yesterday the organization's top three prospects, Roman Anthony, Marcelo Mayer, and Christian Campbell, will all be in the lineup. New Sox ace Garrett Crochet will make his spring debut on Sunday against Toronto. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Rodenheiser Home Services, now offering up to $2,000 off a new heating system. Book your free estimate today at Rodenheiser.com. I'm John Wallach at Boston Till for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 6:30.
Boston's best sports talk. There's an app for that. Download the Sports Hub app for loads of stuff. Absolutely free. Connect with the shows, get podcasts, and more. Get it where you get your apps. Or at 985sportshub.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Toucher.
Right, Toucher on Instagram. Follow and see dog humping videos.
And Hardy.
I'm going to withhold sex.
On 98.5.
Hello.
Hey there.
Yo.
Can we use this for the radio?
What? Let me hear you say, oh. Na 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 na.
Crush me, mommy.
Just not enough booty to go around?
Say my name. I'm a robot.
I'm the son of the post. I'll chase you around a little bit.
Wow.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Instagram.
I want to dip it in, boy.
Toucher and Hardy.
Watch Daddy and Uncle Freddie
Knocking back some fun. Having some fun.
On 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Let's go.
Razzle dazzle. Kaboom. Suck it, Joe.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning. We are Toucher and Hardy. We're brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel. And we have Andrew Callahan in today for Hardy. It's the first time you ever guest hosted, right?
No,
With me?
third time. Second time actually on this show.
But with me?
Not with you.
Yeah, not with me.
Yeah.
It's the first time.
Filling it.
Yeah, get ready for a lesson. Get ready for a how-to.
He had some good co-hosts with him over the Christmas break, though. He was filling in for us. He got to sit in with Dondero and Cattles, I believe, were the two that he got.
Christmas Eve and then the day after Christmas, which we realized also needs a name because I argued it was the best day after of any of the holidays.
Christmas?
Yeah, the 26th.
Why?
Because New Year's, of course, most folks are hungover making bad decisions. 4th of July, probably the same. Thanksgiving, you got to go shopping. Christmas, you get to hang out. Everyone's on break. You sleep in. Kids are home. You're doing whatever the heck you want. And name another holiday you get to say that about, whether you celebrate it or not.
See, if you have kids, Christmas ends at like noon, and then there's a lot of closeness with everyone in the same room, and that can be a lot. Because here's what I've found with Christmas is that is my favorite day, but my kids still get up at like 6:30, and they're teenagers, and they still get up at 6:30, and so we really drag out the opening of presents. So say we start opening presents at 7, we'll finish at like 10.
Wow.
But there's such adrenaline. Like my son got a car, so like, and then my daughter got those Kendrick Lamar tickets. So like, there's such and she started crying, and like, there's like all this emotion.
Can I come to Christmas at your house next year?
Sure.
Okay.
And then I go all out on Christmas. I do. I feel almost obligated to. And then that all ends. So the kids, have been usually on the weekend. My son will get up if he doesn't have anything. He'll get up at like 1. Like my daughter will get up at 10:30. So they're up at 6:30, and it's all over at like 10. So then there's this crash of like endorphins and everything, like all crashes. And they're old enough where the stuff they get, it's not stuff you can play with. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they're not getting toys and like games and stuff. So it's all future. Like the car wasn't there. You can't drive it. The concert's not till this summer. So there's, that's not happening. I mean, they get like clothes and that they wanted, and they get like stuff like that. My son gets like sports, like they get stuff, but nothing that they're going to use that day. Because I've tried that too. Because they sell a bunch of crap that you can put in a basement. Mm-hmm. I bought this stupid game. It was on Instagram. I'll never buy anything off Instagram again based on an ad. It's a badminton game for inside where there's a hole in the net, and you hit the thing through the hole in the net.
Huh.
And you use paddles, and you hit this like it's like the bird thing, like the like you use in regular badminton. Shuttlecock, right? I knew you would know that because of your crease and the fact that you're a bird, and so you know both things. So I bought it. It might have been like $250. I set it up. It's the least fun thing in the history of the world. Even my son, who will do anything if he's bored, he'll play anything that moves. That if it makes him move, he got sick of it to the point where my mother felt guilty that no one was using it, so she would offer to play him. And she's 82 last Christmas, and that was not much of a matchup. I will be honest with you.
How many times did you play?
I might have played 3 times, and then Milo had a friend there one year, and they because they just started playing baseball in the house. So like, it sucked. It sucked because that was a strategy of mine. Because I was like, there's such a letdown at Christmas, and then my kids start really arguing, and my mother's overwhelmed because she has to put a honey baked ham out of the refrigerator, and that's very difficult for her. And that was $70. She'll have you know. And so my mother's like overwhelmed with this dinner that really requires it. Even my ex-wife has been like, I have no idea why this is taking your mother so long. Like why this is so overwhelming for her, but it is. So my mother's overwhelmed. My father just goes back to bed for the whole day. And then so I was trying to buy stuff, one thing that we could like play with during the day to kind of carry us through that day. But it was to no avail. Now, there was football last year, and my son will watch football. So my father, my son, and I watch football. And you can gamble. I can gamble. He, of course, cannot, as he is not of the proper age.
Of course.
But so that happened. But the day after Christmas, I have to have an activity. Like, we have to leave. We have to leave because we're at my parents' house. We have to leave my parents' house. I don't care if it's the movies. I don't care if it's Topgolf. I don't care if it's like a arcade. I don't care if it's like stupid bowling, which no one enjoys. I don't care what it is. We just have to leave. Mm-hmm. And especially since no one drinks at Christmas anymore. That's like another thing. Like my ex-wife came to Christmas for a couple of days. It's good that we're all together. And that she gets along with my parents and me. And she doesn't drink at Christmas anymore. My dad doesn't drink anymore. And my mom doesn't really care about drinking, so like no one's drinking. When we drank, it was fine.
Time tends to pass.
Yeah, because you'd start drinking, and then you would be like, whatever. Like, and the kids were playing video games, and like everyone was just fine.
Does the drinking explain the allowed baseball in the house? Because I don't want to skip over that your son was somehow playing baseball in the house.
I mean, they weren't playing with like an aluminum bat and like a baseball. They were playing.
I mean, no judgment. I would love to see.
No, it's a big room, and they were playing with. I don't really know how they were playing with a plastic bat and some kind of other ball, not a wiffle ball. it was some game they had devised. You know, like kids,
Right.
like you even probably do it. I mean, I've done this 1,000 times. Like every vacation, we've come up. If there was a pool, we've come up with some game to play in the pool. Him and his friend invented. They both play baseball, so they invented some sort of baseball game that they became very intense with. But he wasn't there at Christmas. Obviously, there was no friend there. Mm-hmm. So there was my daughter and son, and they really start knocking heads because it's like I would say it's like doing a ton of coke, and then you get all that dopamine in your head, and then when you come down, you're incredibly irritable, depressed, and all those things. I think that's kind of what happens to my kids. Is there's this huge rush of endorphins and dopamine, and then it just goes away, and they're just tired and like kind of hungover from Christmas. That's sort of what I put it as.
I don't think you're alone. I think there are a lot of best laid plans. Let's try this game. It'll be good for everybody. It'll be good for the family. I remember one year, I forget who it was. One of the relatives got this thing you put on the ground. It's like a pool table you put on the ground, but all the pool balls are golf balls, and you're given like a putter to putt the ball, and you have to put a certain surface down and then attach things around. It was the worst thing ever. You couldn't keep the carpet like solid. They were like bumps
plus
in
it's
it.
boring.
And it's boring as hell.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's the thing is that. And then we have this game, Throw the Burrito, which is like a card game, but then you literally throw like a soft burrito, stuffed burrito thing at someone. It's like vinyl on the outside.
And there are two of them.
Yeah.
I played this. Yeah.
So you can imagine how that goes. Like my daughter ends up crying and my son ends up going like, what?
He hums it out as fast as he can.
Yes.
Again, crashing from cocaine. This is what it's like. This is the back end.
Yeah, I've never done cocaine, but this is how I kind of envision it, is that you've pumped your, I know a lot of people who have, and when you pump up that kind of dopamine in your head, and then it all goes away, and then you don't have any dopamine left, like your brain's not producing dopamine
Hey, Andrew,
anymore.
What's that like?
I could not tell you. We'll never be able to tell you. But I was
He's
curious.
a football writer, of course he knows.
If we prefer as we get ready for the combine next week that just the bars at 3 or 4 in the morning. But would you use that as a way to dissuade your kids if they're going to college? Like, hey, you don't want to do cocaine. Let me tell you what it's like. The day after Christmas, that's it. Afterward.
Yeah, I mean, I talk to them a lot about. I mean, and I don't really have to give them much of a speech about alcohol, so like that's kind of understood. But kids don't. I know a lot of kids drink, but they don't drink nearly as much as our generation or even the generation after us. They smoke a ton of weed. But I've said this on the air before, what I tell my son, because I'm not worried about my daughter right now, what I tell my son is that, look, it's not going to kill you. It's not going to do anything, but it can make you very boring. Like, it's easy. And he sees, like, kids that it's happened to. Like, you can become someone that is just perfectly content smoking. Like, we talked about how drinking gets you through Christmas. You can become someone who's completely content, like, smoking weed and staying home. Like staying home and playing video games because you're high. Like it takes away, like, your ability to be. It can take away your ability to be, like, have fun and be special. Like that's kind of what I say, because it's not going to kill them. I can't claim that, and I can't say, like, you're gonna die. Or you're going to start doing heroin, because none of that's true.
Yeah, you're only painting in so many colors on the day to day. You'd rather have a full palette here. You want to go do something different. Well, if you're going to smoke every day, this is the couple of things you're going to end up doing.
Yeah, if you smoke every day, there's a good chance you're going to become, like, super boring, and that you're going to just end up, like, staying home, and your sexual relationships will be with the computer, and your friendships will be over Xbox. And he sees kids that it's happened to. So that's what I do with the drugs. I don't know if there's, like, coke and stuff. Who knows? He goes to a prep school now. There's probably a ton of coke. I don't know.
It sounded compelling if I was 16 years old. Like, one of the last things I would want to be at that stage is is boring, even if there are other arguments to be made, more common ones.
Well, if you had stoner friends when you were in high school, or you knew like stoner
did,
kids, yeah, like everyone did. Like so, that was kind of the downside of it, is that you just became kind of boring.
Or you cared about this in such an outsized way that I'm like, hey man, can we like have a cause for something else or other things going on?
And also like the notion of that you're doing something like incredibly like counterculture and wild. It's like, all right, you know, like even when it was illegal, that's why I always thought those 311 videos were so funny, is that they'd be like, we're smoking weed, and you're like, wow, like a misdemeanor. Like, this is crazy. Where'd you find it? Like, where did you find this weed? But what's interesting is you say the combine at 4 a.m. at bars. You keep your eyes open. I bet you 40% of the people that are at 4 a.m. at a bar are all cooked up. That I will tell you. Pay attention to what's going on in them bathrooms.
Report back for us.
Yeah, that will be your little thing for us.
It's a different kind of scout at the combine. Keep your eyes peeled. Yeah. Come back with a report.
Exactly. If the bars are open till 4 and there's people still partying.
Well, I know we're going to talk with my pal Mark Daniels. I did this on my podcast with Giardi actually a couple days ago. Behind the scenes look at the combine. We didn't go there, but maybe Mark would be able to enlighten us a little bit. He's been going longer than I have.
But the two of you, I'm sure, have hung out together late at night.
Oh yeah, and road trips. Honestly, sometimes. You know, this is one of the best parts of the season, just hanging out with the guys that normally you're competing with to get stories and scoops and talk to guys in the locker room, and then you just get to hang back and find a Top Golf in South Florida and then go out and then watch the Patriots get their brains beat in against the Dolphins. But you're like, hey, we had a nice round there, didn't we?
Yeah, you guys all seem to get along, but didn't Bedard crap on you guys?
At the Combine?
No, just like he went on the air and he said, I'm not like the Herald guys. That just occurred to me. I don't think it's a big deal. But you guys all seem to get along, and then Bedard kind of crapped on
you. Give each
not
other
you
rides.
by name.
Yeah, but it's not just the writers. Like, how often do we see Wallach and Reese share a car to the event?
No, but
you know?
like, there's no competition. Like, I was like, I wonder if we should have Mark Daniels on today because Callahan's here, and he's like, no, have him on. Like, I want to bust his balls.
Yeah.
Like there's stuff.
Yeah, he's a friend. Well, the Bedard thing, to quickly put that to bed, because he was on Felger and Maz and tried to bust their balls about back in the day when they were at the Herald, as they've admitted, running with single source stories.
Okay.
Now, when someone sent me the clip of that, I'm like, what the F is going on?
Yeah, right.
And texted Doug, like, how do you want to handle this? We both talked to Greg. He's apologized since, took it back on air, so I appreciate him clarifying. But the term Herald hacks, granted, he's older than I am. Most people are probably thinking of people that work at the Herald now, which is me and Doug. And so what his point was, and this is the proper journalism practice, I talk to multiple people before I run a story or report.
Because Felger had said that he only went with single stories.
And it's not like you're just taking the word of one person. You're doing it as a favor to them. Like
right.
You're tainting your own integrity. You're taking things for own personal gain.
It was a shot at Felger and Matt.
Yes,
okay.
That's what it was.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you cleared that up.
Oh, I am too.
It's not something I thought about, but it just jarred my memory because, like, you guys all. It's funny because, like you. I don't know. I was friends with Maddie, and yeah, I don't know. So I guess, yeah, in radio it's the same thing. Unless I guess it's a direct competitor and you're taking shots at each other. But even that, like, I got along with him fine off the air. So I don't know.
Yeah, we get along generally in the beat, zooming out. I have no problems with anyone I work alongside, and I rep us as like our Pro Football Writers Association. The term is president, but it's way too strong for like you're the person out of 32 beats that talks to the head of our association. I represent good relationships to everybody, which is like the blanket, boring statement. Maybe I've been smoking since I got in here.
You wouldn't be the first.
Also, other guests I've seen
Rory.
here at 4 a.m. out and about that have been on this station. Won't name names, but you could have some different folks who've been in this chair.
Oh, I mean, it's been well documented.
At the Combine specifically, I'll say.
Well, the Senior Bowl is apparently like the
yes, that's
the
getting
all end all.
Yeah.
Well, Bert used to come on wrecked. Like Bert used to come on absolutely wrecked.
One of the first years we've had him on forever, but with some of the first years we called him, and it was clear not only that he had just woken up, but he had been out drinking all night. His voice was torched at 7 in the morning. It was great.
And I'm not casting stones, and he'll admit it. Like he came on one year and he was wasted.
Easy.
Like he had gone to bed.
Oh, sure.
He had gone to bed and woken up. And God bless him. He woke up, and he went to his computer and he turned it on, or what phone maybe at the time. This was years.
It was phone at the time.
Years and years and years ago. This is over a decade ago.
Yeah.
And he came on, and it was funny because I called him out. I'm like, "You're obviously wasted." And he's like, yeah. He's like, I went out. He didn't say anything. He didn't say anything dumb.
No, but he's like, yeah, I might have been out a little too late.
But that's
night.
something that you realize if you don't do morning radio is that, like, if you stay out late drinking, just going to sleep doesn't sober you up. Like, that's like why people get popped for Deweys. Like the receiver from the Stallworth from the Patriots.
Dante
Stallworth. I mean, that's a terrible situation, like with a lot of
That's a
variables.
hell of an example. Yeah, there was a death involved, wasn't there?
Yeah, but that's an example.
Okay.
Is that it's a weird example because like it's such a the guy was like walking across the freeway, but Stallworth probably thought. I mean, no, it's a real example. I'm not making light of it. Is that Stallworth drank, went to sleep, woke up, and probably said, "Oh, I went to sleep and I
gotcha.
woke up and now I'm sober." And then you go out and you drive and maybe you feel sober, but your blood alcohol content level is still pretty high.
And I'll tell you this, like, this is not some sort of giant scoop, but when you stay out till 4 a.m, this is not just, we're on the road, we go to a convention like people do probably once a year in their jobs. This is to actually talk to people who will then loosen up and talk to you.
Yeah.
I've nailed many a mock draft pick for the Patriots based on conversations had 2 months before the draft over a couple of beers. Bill likes this guy, hates this guy, this guy's no good. Or certain coaches just happen to roll in because some on the staff last year had done karaoke at 2 or 3 a.m. And it was like, oh, you're new. I'd love to chat with you. How are you?
Matt
I was just
Patricia.
singing this song.
Matt Patricia doing karaoke.
Not Matt Patricia. These are new guys last year.
I want it to be Matt Patricia.
What would Matt Patricia sing at karaoke? Happy birthday?
I don't know. Whatever Hitler says.
Okay.
All right, because that's the way he treated the Lions. All right, very good. Well, look, we are on YouTube. You can see beautiful Andrew Callahan. And just subscribe to 98.5 The Sports Hub on YouTube. We're live. Joe Murray's live. There's clips from all the shows. The off-air show with Felger that I heard was quite moving yesterday. So you can look at all those things as he did I believe he said he was going to do a tribute to his recently deceased father, which is beautiful and wonderful. And that's something that I would like to check out. So that's up there on YouTube. What happened last night, Jonathan? There's so much. I got to imagine.
We're going to talk not about last night, but the big event tonight. We're going to do a little preview of the Four Nations face-off. That's next.
Okay, I have to gamble on this thing because I have to start trying to care. Because I'm watching it. Mm-hmm. But unless there's money involved, I will not care. All right, so we will be back with that in just a moment. Hair Transplant Associates, where your hair doesn't have to be a game of what happened. So change your lettuce and change your life with Dr. Matthew Lopresti at 1-800-GET-HAIR. What's going on, Jonathan?
All right, nothing happened hockey-wise last night, Fred, but that was the calm before the storm. The Four Nations face-off final is tonight at TD Garden. Team USA faces Team Canada in the rematch that everybody wanted. The get-in price for this one was, as of 20 minutes ago, $1,000, and that was for one of the last rows in the balcony, section 314 at TD Garden. So Brad Marchand's usually in the home guy in his own building, but tonight he's in the unusual position of being booed in his own building. He says that really doesn't factor in.
You don't play for the crowd. You don't worry about the crowd when you're playing. Everything. It's just fans ask you all the time. You hear what people say. You don't hear anything. There's muffled noise, and you can feel the emotion in the game. But when you're on there, you're so focused. You're so in the moment that you're worried about what's happening in front of you. So.
It's funny listening to Brad Marchand. He's usually the smartass with a smile, but in talking about this particular game, there's none of that. He had high praise for his opponents tonight as well.
They're by far the best that I've played. No disrespect to the previous teams, but just the way that the game has evolved in the last 10 years. Some of the players on the team will be some of the best that ever played the game of hockey, and they embody a team that competes at the highest level. They have everything. They check well, they play physical, they have incredible talent.
So on the other side, the U.S. is the home team. Many of these players consider this game a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Defenseman Adam Fox, for example, a Norris Trophy winner that has played in a pair of Eastern Conference finals in his career. He's played in almost 50 career playoff games, and he talked about this.
This whole tournament, even from the start, you felt that intensity. And, I think some of that stuff starts to kick in a little more tomorrow when it's the day of the game and everything. But this is probably the most jacked up I've been for a game. So ready to get it going.
But that wasn't just one more quick thing. That wasn't the highest amount of praise that I've heard about this game. U.S. head coach Mike Sullivan talked a lot about how the Miracle on Ice team of 45 years ago got a lot of American kids to play and love the sport. He said that with a win in this game tonight, this American team can inspire the next generation.
I think this group that we have in our dressing room have an opportunity to do that and inspire the next generation of players. And I think they recognize that. It's a little bit of a trickle-down effect, but I think without a doubt that 1980 team still to this day has had such an influence on American hockey.
I don't know if we'd go that far.
Well, look,
crazy.
Here's the deal, is that even this morning, I got a couple of things. Even this morning, I heard the reference to, because there's nothing else going on, so even ESPN was talking about this game, which is
over
very
women's
rare.
basketball?
I'm sure they had some women's. I don't even know. Was there women's basketball last night? Because they did not talk about women's basketball to lead it.
Just gonna say, where was Caitlin Clark? Don't they have a camera following her around?
Oh, there was women college basketball last night.
Oh, okay.
But I'll tell you this, is that because they keep referring to the 1996 World Cup, or what was it? Whatever it was, whatever hockey tournament there was in the USA Canada, and they keep bringing it up. So to hockey players, apparently that was this watershed moment. That did inspire a lot of people to play hockey. That did get people amped up. And I guess part of the reason maybe that some of these players are so into this is the idea of that 96 team, that happened. Second of all, Marchand has been really interesting during this whole thing. He's just
it's a complete
over
departure.
the moon.
Yeah, this is weird. This is a serious, Gaga Brad Marchand. We've never seen him like
They
this.
had him mic'd up in the locker room, and he's like, "Oh boy," and he's sitting next to Sidney Crosby, and he's like, "Oh boy," and this, and
saw that.
he's all "This is the greatest team ever." He's all jazzed up about everything,
and he wasn't chirping at him. He was honest to God,
"Oh no,
my
no,
God,
no!"
I'm sitting next to Connor McDavid and Sidney Crosby.
No, it was nice. It was cool to see. He was he wasn't being a smartass. He was being real. He was being genuine. So he's all excited about this. That's great that this is happening tonight. McAvoy now is gone and the Bruins season's over. That's not so great. If every other year the Olympics and the World Cup are more important to players than the Stanley Cup, I don't know if that ends up being a long-term good thing. It's been nice this year for the league, and they've gotten a lot of play out of this, and by far in the 24-25, like by millions and millions and millions, that U.S.-Canada game by millions and millions and millions had the most viewers. In the top 10, there was one game that didn't even have 1 million viewers. By the way, the Bruins are in 3 of those that were in the top 10. The Bruins are obviously the biggest draw in hockey in the United States. But, like, if this means so much more to players than the regular season and the playoffs even, then what are you buying tickets for? You know?
Yeah.
Then why are, I mean, tickets to get in the Stanley Cup final are $800 to get in. You know, at a late Stanley Cup final game, then why are you buying those tickets?
Yeah, I remember trying to, the last time the Bruins were in the Cup final, 2019.
You're lucky.
I remember trying to get in, and the get-in price was like this for like Game 5. We're trying to get in.
Oh, I thought Game 7, I was going to say.
Well, Game 7 was worse, but what I'm saying is $1,000 for the last row of Section 316. That's nuts. That's Game 5, Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals.
You know what, though? I don't think this is a situation where you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. I think when you have ratings like they did for that USA-Canada game, the highest non-Stanley Cup game rated since 2019, you're pulling in new viewers who just want to chant, USA, USA. And that's good for the game because if you're enjoying this product, obviously the nationalism is kind of the draw here. You're probably more likely to watch the Stanley Cup as a non-hockey fan if you're enjoying this now.
That's fine. The point of it, though, is if you're a current hockey fan, and look, I understand, I'm not an idiot. I mean, the more eyes on hockey, the more, and professional players, the better it is for the league. The point, though, is I don't quite understand why this is more important to players than winning the Stanley Cup. And if it was another sport, people would feel the same way. Oh, God help us if there was an international football game and Drake May came out and said this like Drake May say, all right, who's lost a Super Bowl recently? Before this last year, Jalen Hurts was on the U.S. football team. And he said, this game means to me more than any other game has ever meant to me in my entire life. And they had just come off that loss to Kansas City. How do you think the Eagles fans would take that? I mean, how do you think baseball fans would take that if, like, Juan Soto was playing for the Mets for, you know, the most money that's ever been paid to anyone. And he's like, well, this playing for the Dominican Republic means more to me than anything I've ever done in my entire life.
Real quick, Connor McDavid lost the Stanley Cup final last year, and I haven't listened to this, but he said basically this tournament's nice, but we can't do this every year.
I'm not sure you could do this every single year. You know, it's been pretty taxing, obviously, see you guys get going down and getting hurt. But it goes to show that, you know, how much guys care about playing for the country, how much pride they play with while they're wearing the jersey. So I think with the Olympics and the offset of the World Cup, I think we'll get enough.
So he's at least keeping this in perspective.
Yeah.
If nothing else.
Well, that's kind of what I like to hear. I'd like to hear that, you know, maybe I don't want to get hurt. You know, maybe I want to win a Stanley Cup. That's my ultimate goal, is to win a Stanley Cup. And let's be honest, ladies and gentlemen, this is all because of Canada. The reason the U.S. team cares so much is because of Canada. Canada cares a lot. And the only reason that this is like a huge deal, a bigger deal in the United States, is basically because of Canada. Like, this is all a Canadian phenomenon. I mean, it's the number one sport in Canada. That you know, nationalism in Canada with hockey is a big deal. So these players that grew up in the U.S. always felt probably less than because they weren't from Canada. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then now you're having a chance to compete against Canada, and they're the better team. And so outside of goal. And so you have a better team, you know, and so you can beat Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid and these guys. This is a Canadian phenomenon. I mean, it really is. I don't doubt the U.S. team really cares, but I think it's almost the rivalry with Canada that they care the most about.
But I would say it's an American phenomenon because I think because of Canada's stature and the history, like this is the rare tournament that comes with history because you're bringing the national element to it. You've played with guys, whatever level, U16, U18, maybe the Olympics, with your fellow American teammates. There's a mountain to climb The mountain ahead of you is Canada. So I get what you're saying is a Canadian phenomenon, but if I'm a Canadian, obviously you want to protect your turf. You don't care if you beat Finland.
But the
Sweden.
United States fans don't care nearly as much as the Canadian fans. They just don't. They don't.
But that's also true of hockey generally.
Yes. But that's what I'm saying. Is absolutely this is Canada. As much as they want to, we might want to annex them and make them the 51st state.
We're just buying everything.
Yeah,
that's also fueling this, obviously, right?
Well, that's fueling it from the Canadian fan standpoint.
I would say Americans too. I mean,
did they boo the Canadian national anthem?
I was told no. I was told it wasn't bad. Dan Roach, for example, was there. He tweeted out. We forgot to ask him this yesterday, but I don't think so.
Well, if tickets are $1,000, what percentage of fans do you think are from Canada? If tickets are it's $1,000 get-in, what percentage of fans do you think came down from Canada? How much of that building is going to be Canadian fans?
Not nearly as much.
I think it's 40. I think it's 40%.
That high.
Yes.
Travel to hotels in and around here.
Drive down from Montreal. Drive down from Toronto. It's not far.
Toronto's like 8.5 hours.
Fly from Toronto. It's an hour flight. I mean, whatever you want.
Expensive, though.
Yeah, it's really expensive. It's the most expensive thing in the world.
I just have a hard time.
By the way, Minneapolis to Toronto is an 80-seat plane that flips upside down.
That's true.
It's not flying to Japan, John. It's a puddle jumper.
That's true. You can get
I've flown from
WestJet.
I've flown from Canadian Air from Toronto to Boston isn't going to set
really expensive.
Yeah, you're not taking out a second mortgage to pay for that.
It's curious, though, because if you're Canadian, you think you have the better team, you obviously have the better history. Like that investment on the fan side, speaks to a lot of fans, and you could say this about NFL certainly on Sundays, like an addiction of this. But it's interesting to me, like you feel that compelled to go see your team and protect your turf in a way that goes, we're better than you anyway. And I understand the USA won the other night, but that to me is the question. How much do they care about this and what's at stake? Because I'll say this, this isn't going anywhere. The success they've had with the ratings and the revenue, and Bruins fans are right to complain about Charlie McAvoy getting hurt, and you could say other teams take that as a cautionary tale. This tournament was staged by the NHL and the NHLPA, and if the players are on board, which we know, and ownership is on board, everyone else in the middle, the GMs who are going to have to suffer with the injuries, and the fans who are upset about this are going to get squeezed out.
That's not right, because they're doing the World Cup.
McDavid just saying it's too taxing.
They're doing the World Cup every other year and the Olympics every other year. There's no way that they can do this in the off years. They just can't. They can't. There's got to be every other year you're doing.
If the players are on board and the owners are on board, who's getting in the way?
I'm not convinced all the players are going to be on board.
Neither am
this.
I. And I'm not convinced all the owners are going to be on board. And
certainly not.
And so you have an oversaturation too. Like, don't think that if you do this every year, it's going to be this big a deal.
Well, there's a difference when I'm saying it's not going anywhere versus they're doing it every year. But why
they're doing it every other year now? We know that for the future, as far as we can see it, it's going to be Olympics, then nothing, then World Cup, then nothing, then Olympics. So they're going to have an international tournament every other year. If they do this, and all right, you've used Montreal in Boston, so I guess maybe you go New York, Toronto or Detroit, then you go Chicago and what?
Winnipeg.
Right. There's only so much of this you can do. No one's going to care.
You're running out of cities and arenas?
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
During the deadest time of the sports calendar. The NBA's not playing. The NFL's done. Baseball hasn't started.
How many towns do you think can carry this event to this degree?
I would say most NHL cities, because
nonsense.
This is the money. What I say about the owners want this, and you're concerned about injuries and whatnot, do you think they care more about the actual health of their employees who they've already paid, or the extra revenue they could add as the owners in the four major sports who are perpetually looking up at the NBA, NFL, and MLB owners because they make a lot more money? This is a new revenue source for them.
Yes,
if
and
this
it's
is a
2
success,
games,
and there's nationalism behind it,
and if I
of course
lose
they're going to sign on.
But what if I lose my playoff gate? Like if I'm the Jacobs and now McAvoy's gone and I'm not making the playoffs, I'm losing my playoff gate and I'm losing all of that.
So he's 1 of 30.
Andrew, Billy Jaffe was in here yesterday. Someone's going to get hurt tonight too. Like it's not if or when.
It's
in
luck.
every game. Someone's getting hurt.
Matthew Tkachuk, he's lucky he didn't break a hand in that fight. Brady Tkachuk crashes into the net. He's lucky he's able to play tonight. Shea Theodore, defenseman.
It's hockey. It's violent. My point is,
yes, and they're exhibition games, and they're not 2 exhibition games. The owners, what's the profit on that? So they're getting 2 games worth of ad revenue that other than gate of an entire playoff run? No way. No way.
Look, the point is here that they care more about money. And because this tournament has been a success, that they will continue and push for this. And even if you have Matthew Tkachuk, that's another owner. That's 2, 3, 4. Like, I don't look at how you experience this either as a fan from a vibe standpoint, an owner from a financial standpoint, or a player making memories as they're talking about this might be the biggest game of my lifetime and not see this as an opportunity moving forward.
You're acting like they're not doing it. There's going to be international competitions every other year. They're doing it. And then you don't oversaturate it, and then not everyone's getting injured all the time.
So this is where coming from the NFL helps, though, because you would say, and I think this is fair. The critics would say the NFL is oversaturated, and that you have players getting hurt too much. What I've learned from covering this league is those particular brand of rich people and owners do not care.
I understand that, but the amount of money is so ridiculous by adding that extra game. It's like an extra what, $900 million, $1 billion. You got 10 million people to watch a game. That's a game. So what's the revenue from that? They're not selling ad space for. It's not the Super Bowl. It's $8 million for a 30-second commercial. I mean, you're acting like this is like this windfall where they're going to be playing with money. By the way, what about the other games that no one watched? What about Sweden, Finland, where it had a 0 rating? I mean, you had one game that got a lot of eyes on it. It's nice. They're going to do it every other year. You can't do it every year. I don't think the Players Association is going to want to do it every year, to be honest with you.
We'll see when the money rolls in. Look,
they did. The money's not rolling in. It's not going to change the cap.
What I'm saying is the money doesn't stop here as it didn't the other night. Like when we talk about the new viewers that are pulled in, if you're struggling to gain viewership and extend it to an audience, not only just in terms of TV ratings and the money coming in through concessions, but your reach on social and all these different places, the longer you do this, the more people you reach, the more fans that will then return for the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Andrew, I've been through this 100 times. Oh, the Olympics were so popular. Now everyone's going to love hockey. It doesn't work like that. And you're acting like they're never going to do this again. They're going back to an all-star game. Again, the World Cup of hockey will have more eyes on it because it's more countries.
And this is what I said at the start, is not going anywhere. How often it is, I don't know.
All right.
But what I'm saying,
it's not going anywhere.
And people don't turn down fresh new sources of revenue.
We know it's not going anywhere. They weren't in the Olympics last Winter Olympics. They're back, and now there's going to be a World Cup every other year. It's not going anywhere, but they can't do it every year. No way. And I think with John, I don't think the Players Association wants to do it every other.
Especially when you hear McDavid say that. You know, McDavid is already.
They did a poll with the Athletic, thinking that everyone was going to go. Yeah. All the players were going to go. Yeah, I want to do it every year, and like 60% of them said they didn't. So I mean. Yeah. Let's be honest.
Were those just players participating? Because I totally missed this. Or was it all players?
I think it was of all players in the league.
Players. Okay, I think it was all players.
Yeah. All right. We'll be back in just a moment. We're very late. Here are the headlines. We were debating so hard.
If your alarm clock sounds like this is the show for you. Toucher and Hardy, the Sports Hub.
Moment more with FanDuel. Derek, go ahead.
Yeah, so we had bought tickets for the Four Nations before the championship before anything even started for $250, and then we saw the price obviously jack up to over $1,400 for cheapest ticket, and contemplating whether we sell, whether we go. What we justified it with was it's a gold medal game, USA Canada in Boston. When is that ever going to happen again? And especially for $250. So I just want to know whether you guys would have gone or sold.
I would have, if I bought them for $250, I would have gone. Because after if you sell them secondary market, they're taking such a chunk out of it anyway. You might as well just go. But my son, who's not even a hockey fan, announced that he wanted to go to Four Nations. So I did inquire if the station had their box. They don't. And then there's no way in a million years I'm buying tickets to this thing. Just for 2.5 hours of something I ultimately don't care about the result of, I'll watch it on TV.
But if you have those tickets, you absolutely go. This is that not once in a lifetime, but this is one of those landmark events.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm selling. So if that's a few $1,000s, even with a little bit of a chunk taken out.
No. It's not a few thousand.
Well, he said cheapest to get in the door is $1,400. Let's assume he doesn't have the worst seat in the building.
Now.
It's
$1,000 now.
It's $900 now, and then after fees and everything, you're making like $300 a ticket.
So you sell them for $1,800. You spent $500. That's $1,300. They say they take out $200-$300. It's $1,000, and you can still go watch across the street. I don't know.
Well, $1,000 total, then, but $1,000. So how much do you make out of that?
That's what I'm saying. $1,000 with the net of it.
Yeah, but I mean,
$2,000.
So $1,000. What are you going to do with the $1,000? I don't know how much the guy makes. If it's $250 and he was comfortable spending that, and he wants to go to the game, go to the game.
I'd go find a bar or pub across the street. You get the same energy. But
there are so
make a memory.
But if you wanted to
go,
you go to in life that don't necessarily mean anything, or you've been to more than your fair share of NFL games where the outcome was decided by halftime. I mean, this is one of those shared experiences between the best in the world for something that both sides really care about, and it's in your own backyard. I'm going. Not that I can say, I don't need $1,000. Everyone needs $1,000, but I'm still going. That shared experience would be worth it.
And it's also not like at the end of it, it's what are you going to like with the $1,000? That's great, but what are you going to invest it? And then you're going to make 6% off $1,000. Like, I mean, you wanted to go to the game. You were willing to spend $500.
I mean, I can do whatever I want with $1,000. That's my point.
Yeah, but you were willing to spend $500 to get in. And so if you're willing to get $500 to get in, $1,000, I don't think that justifies not going. Now, there are people that I know who have gotten into like 7 like courtside seats to a Celtics game, and those go for like $10,000.
Those are nuts.
And that I would absolutely, I don't care if it was game 7 of anything. I don't care what it was. I don't care. There's literally no event. I don't care what it was. If you're talking about like now I'm selling $20,000, $30,000 worth of tickets, absolutely. But if I wanted to go for $500 and then I'd make $1,000 profit, I'd go for the $500.
So this is what I'm curious about most, though. Like, set the money aside.
Because even at the bar, you're going to spend $300, $200. You know, if you eat and drink and you're with people, like you're going to spend $200-$300.
Like for a Stanley Cup final game in 2011, I spent, I want to say $550 for a ticket in the 300 section.
Well, Hardy and I spent with fees like $1,100 a ticket to go to the Lions divisional game.
Right, but when you go to the Stanley Cup game, even if it's not the series clinching game, my thing is once this is over, like USA beats Canada, the memory for a lifetime. I'm not debating that. I'm curious. What around that memory, or is that memory worth that much to you?
Yes.
That you say, I saw the USA beat Canada.
Yes.
Because there's okay, they'll get medals or there's a trophy, I'm sure.
I don't
but
care if
there's
they get medals or
there's no
not.
history behind it. This is the first time ever. It's just a one-off.
It doesn't matter if it's history. For the
How many Hall of Famers are going to be on the ice?
For the 2.5 hours you're there, if you're a hockey fan, you get to see Sidney Crosby play with Connor McDavid. I mean, like you get to see something when they're trying. Like you get to see, and this is it for this might be it for Sidney Crosby international competition. I don't know.
Made for Brad Marchand. I mean, this is a last chance to see all of these guys.
You have like you have Austin Matthews on the ice.
Yep.
I mean, but just Canada in general. If you're a hockey fan, I mean, the idea that you have this kind of talent on the ice trying is worth. If it's worth $500 to you, You know, if you're willing to spend $500, that $1,000 you get in return, I don't think is worth the $500 that you were willing to spend. If that makes any sense.
Well, I hope this guy follows up tomorrow, calls back, and says what he does.
The memory of it is
though.
BS. The memory of it is nonsense. It's being in the. I always don't like that. Like, I was at this game. Oh, big deal. Like, you know, unless it's the Immaculate Reception or something.
Well, I think what you're saying is bragging about the memory is BS. But if you have that memory, that's the only thing you're taking out of that arena. They're not handing out medals and trophies, and you get to say,
"It's living in the present." It's for the 2.5 hours I get to watch this, and I get to see this incredible talent in front of me on ice. And this collection of talent will never be together again. It's not about I mean, you're not paying for a memory. You're paying for. It's like you have sex with a hot girl. You're not paying for the memory. You know, you're not doing, or I shouldn't say you're not doing it for the memory. You're doing it to have sex with a hot girl. Like, you're going to the game for that 2.5 hours to enjoy it. The memory of $1,000. I mean, what's the memory going to be? Going to buy yourself 3 pairs of sneakers? I mean, who cares? All right, look, you are very contentious today, Andrew Callahan. you got something to say.
And this is
about
my fourth sport. It's curious though, because I think the attitude towards, you know, the same thing. We watch LeBron James play with Steph Curry in the Olympics. The Olympics has an award at the end. It's got history. It's got meaning. But the level of competition, like, would you pay? Let's say the care about the sports were the same. You love basketball as much as you did hockey. And I don't know the answer to this, John or Fred. Would you pay as much, be that invested as hockey fans are tonight? Because I think if not, then that speaks to kind of a cultural thing about hockey, which I think is something to be celebrated and treasured. But that's the rub here. It's not necessarily that the best in the world are all playing together and you have an opportunity to go. There's something else at play. It's the hockey. It's the fact that they care this much about this.
The USA would never play a team as good as Canada. All right, look, I got to make this call. All right, we'll be right back.
Toucher and Hardy, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
rematch of an American win last weekend. Adam Fox, a U.S. defenseman, is really looking forward to this one.
This whole tournament, I mean, even from the start, you felt that intensity. I think some of that stuff starts to kick in a little more tomorrow when it's the day of the game and everything. But yeah, I mean, this is probably the most jacked up I've been for a game, so ready to get it going.
The U.S. should be at just about full strength as well. Austin Matthews and Matthew Tkachuk practiced yesterday. Brady Tkachuk did not due to illness, but all three men are expected to play. In other game-related news, Canucks defenseman Quinn Hughes will not be flying into play this game for the Americans. The Bruins are once again without Hampus Lindholm at practice yesterday, with the post-break schedule arriving on Saturday. It's the second straight day he has not been able to skate with the main group. Celtics will play their first game coming out of the All-Star break tonight in Philadelphia. Xavier Tillman, the only player on the roster unavailable. Brandy and Max have the pregame at 6:30 and the tip-off at 7 here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Former Celtic Jaden Springer has signed a 10-day contract with Utah, and the Red Sox will begin their exhibition season tomorrow in Fort Myers against Northeastern. New Sox ace Garrett Crochet will make his spring debut Sunday against Toronto. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by the Daytime Deals menu at the 99. Available Monday through Saturday until 5 p.m. Enjoy new specials like the Flatbread Combo or the Vermont Cheddar Chicken Sandwich. You gotta love the nines. I'm John Wallach of Boston Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 7:30.
Here we go.
Boom. I win. Kaboom.
Yeah. It's a buddy. Oh.
We've got a passion for Boston sports.
Get angry.
98.5 The Sports Hub.
It's called rising and grinding.
Start your
Got
day.
your finger on the pulse, Fred.
Begin your
Seldom
day
right and never wrong.
right here. Is that Dutcher or is that Hardy?
I know, looks like a poodle. It's an effing poodle, dumbass.
The Sports Hub.
Hey, we're Toucher and Hardy. Andrew Callahan is in for Hardy. Adam 12 has gone off to whatever park he's had to do. I think he is going to. He's taking one of his kids to his kid Cade, I think, over to one of the national parks. And then they're going to his dad's house in Maine, where they stay the winter.
We don't want warm weather if we get away from here. We want to make sure we're as cold as possible. He's going to New Hampshire. I think they go skiing today and then up to Maine.
All right. So the other day we played audio of the Bird movie review, and he was in here. Everyone loves Bird. We were talking about after the show just how great a guy Bird is, and he comes in and it's a lot of fun and he gets it. Andrew Callahan, are you aware that I'm a divorced man?
Yes.
Okay, so here's the deal. I am never going to talk about my dating life on the air. Why? You'd be surprised. All my kids' friends listen to the show. Most of my kids' friends listen to the show. My kids listen to the show. And I'm not going to do that to someone I'm dating. I'm not going to start, unless I, have been dating them for, a year and a half or something, and then, they become part of, the family and part of, a super part of my life. I'm not going to talk about my dating, which is why I think the Bill Belichick thing is so funny, is because obviously I've dated women and I would never in a million years, and they never have asked me to go take social media pictures with them. It's ridiculous. It's so funny. I would never in a million years do that. I wouldn't. And if that was a problem, I wouldn't date the person. It hasn't been, but I wouldn't date the person. So I do share a lot about my life, but it's about me. I'm not going to throw some girl that I'm dating under the bus or start making my kids' friends hear about what I'm doing. Let me, if I'm in a long-term relationship, then maybe that changes, but I'm certainly not going to do it with women I'm dating. I'd be a maniac if I did that. So think whatever you want about me, but you all realize that other than the age difference, the funniest thing about Bill Belichick is this girl's his agent, but he's walking around taking pictures with her on social media and taking her out to these public events. It's very funny to me. A lot of people don't do that. A lot of people bang porn stars and stuff and don't take them out to the Ivy so they can be photographed in Santa Monica. I don't know.
Jimmy Garoppolo, for example.
Yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo was the one guy who took a porn star out. So anyway, him and Charlie Sheen.
Gronk with the jersey, two people forget. That picture was once a scandal. I don't remember her name.
We had Gronk
Olsen.
on at
How
the
do you
time.
not know her
Bree
name?
Olsen. We had Gronk on at the time. We were having him on once a week.
That's right.
And he thought we were going to ambush him. And I said to him, I'm like, who cares? Like, you're allowed to have sex with whoever you want. Like, big deal. She's hot. If you want to have sex with her and she wants to pose in your jersey, who cares? Now she kind of threw you under the bus. That's the thing is, like, Lisa Ann is this famous porn star. And the only reason I really know her anymore is because she goes on YouTube on these shows and talks about famous people she had sex with, which would make me think, why would I ever have sex with Lisa Ann? If, like, she's like an old porn star. Like, of all the women, like, unless I was a nobody, if I was an athlete or anyone with any consequence, why would I go have sex with her if she's going to go tell everyone I had sex with her? I
remember that she slept with some Notre Dame wide receiver when she was 50. I remember this.
Yeah, it's like I want to sleep with some 51-year-old porn star, and we know guys who bang Lisa Ann. You do,
yep,
too.
I do.
But if her job is to kiss, doesn't she get to kiss and tell?
Yeah, but I wouldn't sleep with her if
right.
That was
I'm with you. Yeah.
Like, the whole point of it would be.
It's not on her; it's on the guy.
Like I've always watched these pornos, and she's like, and, you know, like whatever, and like I want to like experience this, and it would be fun, and there's this agreement that like you know this is a mutual, consensual, fun thing. Like I don't need you like now talking about this for the rest of my life. This is why all these famous people have NDAs, and you'd be surprised. I know girls who have signed NDAs, and not for me obviously, but at clubs and. How business-like this whole NDA thing, and I don't blame the girls at all. Like, if this hugely attractive, super famous dude, their lawyer comes up to you and says, you know, you want to hang out with this guy, and then you're like, yeah, of course I'm going to hang out with this guy with the same club, and he's like, all right, you got to sign this thing. It's like on a tab. It's like they carry it around.
There's a receipt underneath as well. Thank you.
Listen, it used to be that people used to film. Jamie Kenney had video. They used to film girls with an ID up, like, and that doesn't even stand in court. So, like, you really have to have like people apparently sign these NDAs. All right. So anyway, so Bird is single as well. I haven't heard this, but listen, it's a vacation week and it's 7:00. Let's hear what Bird has to say about being single.
What else can I ask you?
You know it's going to be good when that's how it leads in. What else can I ask you? What else can I ask you?
What else can I ask you? How's your job? Let's talk about you.
Okay, no, the job's going well. We're redoing the TV studio. So we basically, right now, we gutted it all out. We moved all the equipment out and put it in the library because we have nowhere else to put it. So today I painted 2 rooms. Excuse me, I primed 2 rooms. And I just texted the guys, they're still doing it. So I'm going to go head back and help them and finish the rooms. So we're painting the rooms black, TV black.
Why didn't you...
TV black, you're aware of that, aren't you, Andrew? You do a lot of television.
Yeah.
It's TV black.
Sure.
Yeah. If you don't know, Bird's working for the Everett Public School System. He has a college degree as well.
Why didn't you use a paint and prime mix?
We wanted... that's not my decision. I know. I totally get that. But they wanted to prime it and then to slap the black TV paint on it for the studio.
Oh, all right. What else can I ask you?
Well, this is flying. What else can I ask you? Well, at least we know you're painting the TV studio.
Dating. Are you dating anyone?
I am in a relationship, yes. We started dating back in July.
Oh, hey, Bird. Oh, I wish I had known that. We could have talked to him about this.
I had no idea that was the case.
Good for you, Bird.
Look at that. Bird, we knew it was with someone because we met her. She came into the studio, and then I knew that ended. And now, but Bird's back on the horse again.
Good for him.
You know what Bird loves? Love.
Yeah.
You know, Bird likes being in a relationship. He likes settling down with one lady. It's like he settled down in his parents' house and hasn't left, even though he's in his 40s.
This girl, Jamie, she's great.
How did you meet?
Oh God, it's not bad. So we went to college together. Never said a word to each other.
You went to what?
We went to college together at Curry College.
Okay.
Hey, that wasn't me, Curry. That was him. That was your own alumni announcing that he went to Curry College. They send me, Andrew, sometimes very nice emails saying, why don't you come to the campus and like walk around and see what Curry College is all about, because I often question how Bird got a Bachelor of Arts degree. But
we have other Curry College grads that have contacted me and asked me the same question.
I've coached Little League baseball games where the other coach is like, I went to Curry College and what's going on? But listen, Everyone loves Bird. And I like that Bird doesn't meet people on the internet, right? Like he doesn't meet them on dating
No,
sites.
that's weird. Yeah, we didn't ask him about the dating apps and stuff.
Bird is Bird is someone who's out there. He's very famous in Everett. I'm not making that up either. Everyone knows and loves Bird there.
Yeah.
Told you I had a trainer years ago. And he's like, "Oh, you work in radio. Do you know Bird?" I'm like, "Why?" And he's like, "Because he's my friend's younger brother, and he runs around like doing stupid crap."
That did not sound like college.
What? What is
It's just like call.
Oh, my bad. Curry College.
Okay.
And
you can't even say college.
Yeah, she played softball. I played football. We knew mutual friends, but we never like stopped and like talked to each other or anything like that in passing.
Okay.
So then I saw her on Instagram. She follows a girl that I used to work with that's covering the Callahan retrial because she's from Canton. So she knows.
Oh.
Yeah, she knows. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. Exactly.
What?
That's all I'm going to say. Exactly.
I've lost. I didn't know there was something super secret about that.
Karen Reed bringing people together.
Wait, so the girl is covering the Karen Reed trial because she lives in Canton?
No, I think she just lives in Canton. She's following the Karen Reed trial. You got to play that again because I'm confused too.
Are you sure?
No, I'm not.
You sure you want me to play this again? It justifies playing again.
Oh, I need to know the
Does
answer.
that mean she's on like the overpass holding a sign? Does that count being from Canton and covering the Karen Reed
she's
trial?
one of these lunatics that's out in front of the courthouse?
Maybe.
I saw her on Instagram. She follows a girl that I used to work with that's covering the Callahan retrial because she's from Canton. So she knows.
Oh.
Yeah, she knows. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. Exactly.
All right. His friend is covering the trial. His friend knows this girl that he's dating.
Yeah, but why would covering the trial? That means you're taking this as she works in the media, right? And that she's covering the Karen Reed trial?
Yeah, you're covering something.
Yes.
I mean, even
Yes.
that term I've used before to describe my job, and people are like,
Well, you're
so
at
you
the
work
Herald
for the team? Like, what does covering mean?
So if you were, that's how I take it too. So if you're at the Herald, do they just assign you by where you live?
No.
If they're like, hey,
that sounded like totally superfluous information.
Yeah.
But then the dismount of, that's all I'm going to say. Exactly.
Yeah.
You just answered.
I don't want to give out too much information, but she's covering the Karen Reed trial because she lives in Canton.
Okay.
Exactly.
Look, we don't want to pay for gas, right? So, it's this big trial. It's got all this national attention. We need someone with their feet on the ground locally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he goes, that's all I'm going to say. Like, I've said too much. Wow, Bird, you really let the cat out of the bag there. Who's this Karen Reed you speak of? You know, he knows he actually knows what went down, apparently, Bird.
Exactly. So I'm like, I used to work with this girl. She's like, oh yeah, but I've been following this.
So you dropped in her DMs?
Yes, I dropped into DMs. I go, I used to work with this girl. Oh, hi, Bird, how you doing? How's life? Blah, blah, blah.
That is such a bold move. It's such a bold move. And it works, too, apparently. Like, going into someone's DMs. I always assumed that if I went into someone's DMs, they would be like, you're just, you piece of garbage. That's always what I would think, like, you're harassing me. Like, you went into my DMs. Like, if I was like, hi, in their DMs, I would think that, like, who's this ugly guy bothering me on my DMs?
Is that how it's done now?
I don't have the balls to do it. I don't know. I wouldn't have the balls to do it.
Andrew, is that how it's done?
I have some friends who have had kids, and that's how it started. Is that how you perceive people jumping into your DMs?
No.
It's like, what are you doing here?
No, I'm thrilled.
You welcome it? Okay.
Yeah. I've reached out to women. I just recently did it. I'm listening to this podcast about this one time at Bennington College, and I actually liked it so much. I reached out to the woman and said, hey, she just happened to be a woman. I reached out and said, hey, I really enjoyed this podcast. And I did that because I know that it feels good when someone does that about my work. And I've reached out to men and women and been like, hey, I enjoyed this. And I really do that because I figure if I do that enough, someone might do it to me. They'll say that they like my work.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of where we're at now. But
what's the hit rate on that? How many replies do you get in return?
100%,
with the compliment.
100%,
Okay, good.
But then I don't go like, hey, let's go date.
Yeah.
You know,
I've done that. I have friendships like that with other writers, not even covering the NFL, to say, hey, want to drop you a note? Like, can tell you put a lot of care and time into the story.
So you like that, right? If someone was to go into your Instagram DMs that was in your profession and you said, hey, that was a really good job, you would think that was really nice of them. It would make you feel good, right?
Yes, I would. It's not like a 5-alarm fire, but like my eyebrows would be raised. Like if I don't know anything about the person, I'm not going to assume there's nothing else going on. But I appreciate that generally. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's nice. And I think it's that's one cool thing about the internet is that you can actually, go, and these things are like esoteric things. It's not like I DM Natalie Portman and go, I thought your work was really good. I mean, this is a podcast a listener suggested. I'm in radio.
Yeah.
And I figured this is it's about Bret Easton Ellis and stuff. I'm like, how many people have really listened to this? Like, I just want to say, hey, I thought you did a really good job. I would have done it if it was a dude, too.
Natalie caught Attack of the Clones at 2 a.m. on TNT. Just want to say you're fantastic.
Exactly. That's kind of the thing is I wouldn't do that. And I've sent support to guys that got in trouble.
I heard you went to Harvard. I've been on that campus.
I took a bus by there the other day. They miss you. So do I.
John, go ahead.
Well, not only does that happen to me, however, I got a text at 6 a.m. this morning saying, hello. Now, a text message, not whatever you young people call a DM, but a text message on my phone. And I said, good morning. I said, who is this? And she said, is this John? Now, that's my real first name. And I said, yes. And she said, we met at grocery store, not at the grocery store, at grocery store, which tells me her English is not that well.
Did it have a plus in front of the number? Was it plus in front of the number that was texted?
I think it did.
Yeah.
I think it did.
That's right away, my friend, that is no real person. When there is a plus in front.
It's like a foreign country code usually.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That is something that is not real.
You ever reply to those?
No, but I will answer spam calls and then
he did that. He did that in the studio.
When
the
my
other
daughter's
day.
in the car with me, I'll put it on speakerphone and I'll see how long I can keep them on.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they say something, I'll start interrupting them. Like they'll go like, "Have you interested in solar?" And I'm like, "Oh, solar! I haven't thought about that." And they'll be like, "Yeah, solar." I'll be, so what are you talking about? The roof? And then I'll go on it.
So not on the dating apps, right?
No, don't
so
do that
you can't.
Whoa, did he say the S word? You gotta dump that.
I missed it. If he did,
all right.
You don't have any advice because Fred is on
dating apps.
He's on Hinge. He's on dating apps. But do you have any advice for Fred when it comes to like the dating apps and whatnot?
Fred, don't go looking around. It'll just come to you. It could be tomorrow, next week, or a month. I don't know how horny you are, but
See the Joker. Having fun at my expense.
That's basically it. Just let it come to you.
Just let it come to you. And if you're somewhere and you're having a conversation with a girl, just if you're feeling it and it's flowing, just take it to the next level. Just let it flow.
I've had plenty of good experience with the dating app. I don't think there's anything wrong with the dating app. Worst case scenario, you get along with the person, but it's not just clicking. You killed an hour.
Mm-hmm.
You got to go out for an hour. I don't mind the dating apps. I think they're good. I like the dating apps. I've had the thing with the Raya thing is that they're all like in California.
Raya's the one you have to like apply for membership.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you have to have a certain amount of like social media followers. It's ridiculous. It's stupid.
Boy.
And then it's like people from like New York City and like California. It's ridiculous.
I completely forgot this segment started with his dating advice. I was just enjoying the conversation recorded as it was being played because I was excited at the front end and then completely spaced. And then we finally got there. Yeah. Let it flow. Let it come to you, Fred.
Yeah, that's what Bird does. He's like, when you have that network of Curry College alumni, College alumni, that's something that works out for them. All right, listen, Tom Curran is on the show. We are going to talk to him. I don't know why we haven't had him on in so many years.
We can talk to him about that.
I'm hoping I did something that I don't remember. That would be interesting, but who knows? All right, we'll talk to Tom Curran because there's all this intrigue around the Red Sox in just a moment.
Stay tuned for more Toucher and Hartley.
we don't put limits on them, and he said what he said, but at the end of the day, we're in the winning business. And from my end, we're going to make decisions based on competition and roster flexibility and versatility, and we're going to take our best 26 guys to Texas.
Toucher and Hardy, Andrew Callahan from the Herald's in for Hardy today. Tom Curran is great. He works for Nesson, obviously, doing all the Red Sox stuff and some other stuff, too. We haven't had him on John says the show's had him on, but I don't think I've been on the show. Well, Tom Curran's been on for like 10 years, 15 years. But I don't know why. I like him. So here we are. All right. Put him up here. Let's go. Tom Curran,
that's
hello.
Reassuring. No, that's reassuring because I thought there was something going on here. You're never on when they asked me to come on. I figured there's a thing. So thank you.
No, honestly, I was hoping you were going to say I did something because I have no idea why you haven't been on the show.
Well, there we go. People care about the Red Sox again, so we'll change that. Let's go.
I mean, because if I'm going to have a Red Sox guest on, to be honest with you, you're pretty much the only one to have on. So here we go.
You're pretty much the only one who's been talking about it for the last 5 years, so we'll have you on.
All right, yeah, right. Well, no, and also you know how to talk, which is not always the case with people that.
That's a great idea, baseball. Tom. Fly Fred down to Florida. You guys could do a preseason game together.
Yeah. Be careful down here. Everything in Florida is trying to kill you. Everything.
That is true. And
from the insects to the alligators to the governor, everything is trying to kill you down there.
Now, are you camped down there for the entire spring training?
The whole thing. We are here until the end of March. So, yeah, we're in it.
All right. So before we get to the intrigue that's going on, what is the, what are your responsibilities there outside of, television? Do you, when you're walking around, the facility, what are you supposed to be doing?
That's a great question. You walk around the facility a lot. Yeah, well, I mean, at this time of year, the first game's tomorrow against Northeastern, so you're talking to big guys, right? I mean, this is the one thing that is great about spring training and probably any pro sports training camp is the guys are accessible, the players are accessible, so you can get a good vibe. You get to know, you bankroll the connections now so that they pay off during the season, and that might be a prospect who you don't see for 3 months, but you had a couple good conversations. So it's just getting to know the players and getting to hear what's going on.
Yeah, I'm taking my son actually down to Jupiter. I love spring training. That access is even good for the fans.
That's what's great about it, right? Yeah, autographs and you're up close. The players hang around. It's totally different when they go north. But I like spring training. It's fun.
And you can watch bullpens and stuff, and you appreciate how much movement there is and all that stuff. There's a lot. All right, so. Let's start with Rafael Devers. First of all, have you seen him in person yet?
Yes.
Okay. Does he look like he's in shape?
He looks like Rafael Devers, who doesn't always look like he's in shape. I mean, that's part of the thing. He's got a doughy body. He's got that dad bod, and. It's funny. We were talking to Alex Cora about it yesterday. You see him in the cage in a uniform, and you say, yeah, that's Rafael Devers. He looks fine. Then you see him walk by in shorts and a T-shirt, and you say, is he in the best shape? It's always an issue with him. Cora was pretty blunt the other day when he said, I thought he was a little behind in where he should be physically. But I will say, you watch him in the batting cage, and he's elite. So the concern is, is the breakdown coming when you've got that kind of body? He's getting older. We all are. And, you just got to take care of yourself. And I think they're trying to get him to take that part of it more seriously.
Okay, so I am one of the maybe only people that seems to – I understand where Devers is coming from in that my theory is if I was him and – you're the best player on the team, and then during the offseason, they sign a guy, and the big signing is someone that plays your position, and then they're asking you to get off the field. It would piss me off, too. And then I also understand why Cos is getting like Dan Roach was giving him a lot of crap yesterday. I understand. I'd like that if I mean that's Costas' guy. Like, you know, Bregman's new. You know, this is our third baseman. I don't have any problem with that either. But how much of an issue do you see this being? Is it being blown up too much here? What's the vibe down there?
Yeah, it's not an issue right now, but it absolutely could be. And when you talk to some of the guys behind the scenes, off the record and all that, you know, they're a little concerned how this plays off because it's two of your leaders. Let's start with the Devers part of it. I'm with you. I mean, like I try to tell people, put yourself in his shoes. Right? If they told me tomorrow somebody else was hosting Red Sox baseball, my reaction probably wouldn't be, well, whatever's best for Nesson. You know, it'd probably be, I'm pissed off.
Yeah,
that's my gig. I don't want to give it up. Now, what he does over the next 6 weeks, you got to go earn it. He's been, depending on what metrics you use, he's been the worst or one of the worst defensive third basemen in baseball over the last 7 years. He's improved. He's better than he was. But if you want to keep that job, this guy's a Gold Glover. Bregman won the Gold Glove last year. So go out and show that you're ready to be the third baseman because second base is up for grabs. If Devers is good enough down here, Bregman will probably be at second base. If somebody shows they can take second base, then there's more pressure on Devers. And the thing about Costas, I don't know if anybody's talking about it up there. Let's not forget, if Bregman's the third baseman, one of the landing spots for Devers is first base.
Exactly.
So
yeah, we've talked about that. Yeah.
Because there's a little, you know, he's watching out for his own gig as well. The interesting thing down here is Vaughn Grissom, who probably is top of the depth chart at second base. He's Costas' roommate down here. So Costas comes out and says, Bregman's our second baseman. I'd like to know what dinner was like that night at the condo. Because Costas basically said Vaughn Grissom is going to go to Worcester and then had to go home and, you know, fire up the grill with him.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Hey, Tom Curran, it's Andrew Callahan from the Herald. Great to speak with you. That's no lip service, longtime part of my summers, professional, pristine broadcaster, Tom Curran. You mentioned...
That's two compliments. It's too much.
That just means I'm old. I
had already complimented him, and now you're jumping in as if you're complimenting.
Well, you've got time to make up.
Don't worry, Tom. I'm not complimenting you at all.
15 years, Fred.
Thanks, John.
Jesus Christ, Andrew. Show some restraint.
Tom, you mentioned that this could be an issue. It isn't right now. Certainly feels like the honeymoon period of spring training. If and when would you know when Cora has to make a decision about splitting reps or giving starts out? When will we know if this is a problem?
Yeah, well, like 3 weeks from now, Andrew, if all of a sudden Devers isn't getting any time at third base in these spring training games, like halfway through camp, and he's still simmering about it, then you got a problem. And again, the problem is behind closed doors. Like, I talked to a couple players an hour after the Devers press conference, and, you know, they were fringe guys, but guys on the team, and they were all sort of worried about it. They're like, what's going on here? This is not, you know, this was a really, really happy camp when we all got here last week. You know, the Bregman news put everybody over the top. They got a couple good young pitchers here. All of a sudden you feel like, all right, they're doing something here. And, you know, your best player from the last 7 years, the only guy left from the World Series in 18, comes out complaining. So, you know, that's like, you know, the mom and dad arguing in front of the kids. The young guys are just looking at it with their mouths open. So I think, to answer your question, I think if we're a few weeks into this camp and all of a sudden you're seeing Bregman play third base every day in these games and that's the storyline, how Devers reacts to that is going to tell you if this is going to be a problem.
How is Alex Cora handling this, in your opinion, and do you think his relationship with Rafael Devers will help?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They've got a really good relationship. If you remember back to 18 and when they won the World Series, Cora was like really tough on him. He was the guy who sort of knew when Devers needed a boot in the backside. You know, if you remember, Bogarts was part of that. Bogarts and Cora did a really good job sort of trying to get him to be more disciplined. And so there's definitely a father-son relationship there. He had the night that Casas talked, that night, Cora had everybody, the whole team, over to his house here in Florida, and they had a great cookout. And he said there was no talk of it. Devers was there laughing, joking, having a good time. So I think this is what Cora does best. He's really a communicator. He's transparent with the players, fills them in on what's going on. So, again, it's early days, and right now, you know, Devers is still behind with the shoulder, so he's not even on the field. He's working out on his own. Right now, Cora's handling it well. Again, talk to me in 3 weeks. We'll see where this all goes.
All right. And in terms of the kids, who are you keeping? Who are you keeping your eyes on? Who are you most intrigued by?
Well, Roman Anthony is the class of them. He walks around, and we were talking to Garrett Crochet yesterday. Crochet said, I can't believe this guy's only a few years younger than me. Like, Roman Anthony walks around like he's been in the big leagues for 10 years, and he's 20 years old. We're playing Northeastern tomorrow. Anthony's younger than most of that Northeastern team. He's the guy, but he's an outfielder, and this is a good outfielder. So it's going to be tough for him to make the team. The guy to watch right now is Christian Campbell, because they are giving Campbell every opportunity to be the second baseman of this team this year. And if he ends up grabbing that job, and he's got work to do defensively, his footwork is a little bit off, I think, right now. He's got to get that together. But if he can come in and show you that he's the second baseman now, then this team is going to be best with Bregman at third base. That means Devers has to become the DH, and then this whole thing blows up. So Christian Campbell is the guy to watch because that'll affect everything else.
And they wouldn't put Devers at first.
I don't think so. Not with Casas here.
Okay.
Maybe eventually. The other part of this too is Bregman's got those opt-outs. So that's the other thing. If I'm Devers, I'm like, you're going to move me off third base, and in a year Bregman might walk away. And what? You're going to stick me back at third base?
Right.
Like, I do think that's part of what factors into his mentality here. But I think Casas is your first baseman. So I think Devers would have to be DH. And I think he'd be a great DH. The guy's a great hitter. But some guys just hate it because, you strike out and you go sit on it for 3 innings and you can't do anything about it. Well, guys don't like that.
Yeah, so because you're around it so much, there's more. It's not football where it's 16 games where you switch positions, you're out there for 3 hours and it's over. I mean, if I'm Devers, I might be frightened that it's going to cost me offensively, right? I've never been a DH before. I know I'm in the major leagues for my bat. But, my whole routine is off now. My whole preparation is off.
But you do have a resource. I mean, David Ortiz is talking.
I'm not with the David Ortiz.
David Ortiz was a full-time DH by the time he was Devers' age.
David Ortiz has been supported, by the way, Devers, and also this magic potion of David Ortiz is nonsense, I think. But whatever.
That was, you asked about Cora. The one moment where I thought he got testy, I forget who it was, Christopher Smith from Mass Live maybe, asked him in that first day, is this something where maybe you need Ortiz to talk to Devers? And he just shot him a lot. He's like, listen, I can handle this team. I can handle my job. I don't need Big Poppy coming in to help me out to talk to the players. But, listen, Jason Varitek, I remember when he was playing, Tech said, there's nothing I hate worse than DHing. He goes, it is the most helpless feeling if you strike out and drag that bat back into the dugout knowing I'm not going to do anything to help this team for 2 innings. And to your point, Fred, it's not just your routine. As we talked about body type and stuff, it is not the most physically demanding sport ever created, okay? Mm-hmm. A lot of these guys, the work they take in the afternoon on their position, that's kind of their workout for the day before the game. Right, and if you've spent your whole life spending an hour at third base every afternoon, getting loose, getting ready, getting a sweat on, all of a sudden you take that away. What? I'm just going to go stand in the tunnel for an hour hitting fastballs. You're taking away everything the guy knows about his daily approach to baseball. And telling him to learn something new. And that's not easy for some guys.
Yeah. I mean, I sympathize with the guy. I mean, I don't know why everyone's all over him right away, he's supposed to be so happy about all this, but whatever. All right.
Listen, I'll say this at the end. If it's a motivated Rafael Devers here who's going to come out and answer the bell for competition, and he becomes a better third baseman because of this, it all worked out great. He's got to go out and do this, so we'll see if he does.
All right, well, Tom Curran, it's been too long. We'd like to have you on far more often. Everyone watched the Nesson coverage of spring training. Tom Curran, thank you. It's wonderful.
I thought John Wallach's work as the negotiator to bring the two sides back together on this were beautiful. All right, so John, well done.
Yeah, behind the scenes, he was really he had a whole dossier of things he was talking about. PowerPoint presentation.
This was an honor of a lifetime, Tom. Don't let that be lost or Fred's words cast mine aside. I just want you to know.
Andrew, I'm quickly becoming a big fan, so keep up the great work.
I'll tell you.
Thank you, sir.
It sounds phony to me, Tom, but I know. I mean, that's just me. All right, Tom, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
All right, appreciate it. There you go. We should have him on more often. All right. When we come back, we have a football mind in studio, and we can talk about what's going on with free agency and the franchise tags and everything and what it means for the Patriots. We'll have that for you. Here are the headlines.
are ongoing, and I'm confident that I think we're going to be able to do what it takes to bring T back. You know, I know that I'm going to do what it takes to get him back, and so is he. We've had those talks, so you know those are going to be off-season discussions, but I think we're excited about that opportunity.
I mean, and this is the big news over the last week that Cincinnati is going to, if all else fails, franchise T. Higgins again.
Okay, so let's get to it. If T. Higgins is not available, and then what's the word on the receiver from Tampa?
Chris Godwin, there was a void date on his contract, and Andrew, feel free to correct me, but I think there was a void date on his contract this week, and they moved it back until March 12th, the beginning of the next NFL year, to give them a few more weeks to hammer out a new agreement. So in theory, the top 2 free agent wide receivers on the board will not be available to the Patriots.
So T. Higgins returning to Cincinnati upon threat or presumption of the franchise tag is stronger than Chris Godwin, because Byron Murphy, corner for the Vikings, also had this void date. His contract pushed back. It gives you more time. Deadline spur action. Clearly they're close enough. And I'll say this for the Bucs. They do a great job of retaining the guys that they want to, whether it's cap mechanics or just overtures, the relationships they have. People tend to want to stay in Tampa Bay in a way that's unusual, I would say, for most markets that are like Tampa Bay. That said, if you're the Patriots, I think you still have one of those guys as your plan A, but you need, obviously, a plan B. When you start to scroll down the list of free agent wide receivers, like Amari Cooper, less than 300 yards last year with the Browns, and then less than 300 with the Bills when he got traded midseason.
For most of the year.
Stephon Diggs, speaking of injured. DeAndre Hopkins over the hill, and then some. Marquise Brown, who had less than 100 yards. He was also injured. Darius Slayton with the Giants. Then you get into Keenan Allen, Deontay Johnson, who wants to play for nobody, Mike Williams, and you're quickly out of guys who are proven multi-year starters in the league. So the thing, if you look strictly at free agency, and if I'm the Patriots, I'm looking at every avenue, obviously, to improve my roster. Darius Slayton is the youngest among them. He's never cleared 800 yards in a season. However, playing for the Giants and all those collection of just gold standard quarterbacks, he's cleared 700 yards in 4 out of his 6 career seasons. So that's a guy who's 28 that I think would be atop their free agent board if Higgins and Godwin are taken off.
Okay, do you make a trade? By the way, Joey Bosa is getting cut.
But he's not the guy that you remember.
Okay, he's not.
He did technically made the Pro Bowl, but I think 5 sacks in 14 games, and has also been hurt a lot.
Did that just break down?
No. That was yesterday.
It was yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah,
it was yesterday.
that Joey Bosa is going to get cut. He's going to be a cap casualty. I figured something
He
must
and
be
Khalil
up.
Mack apparently are both getting cut.
Is Khalil Mack any good anymore? I just
Mack
remember he was the greatest, and then I don't remember him anymore.
Mack is expected to be, I think he's scheduled to be a free agent anyway, so Joey Bosa would be the new one. The weird thing is the Chargers are also in the top 5 for cap space, so they don't need it. They just seem to think that Joey Bosa is not worth that anymore.
Yeah, it was just that's a name that comes up. So other names at receiver, which there's obviously a need if you're not going to go through the draft. Devontae Adams is going to get cut by the Jets. Do you have any interest in Devontae Adams?
Not that much, to be honest. I just think he's let's step back. According to Mike Giardi, who came on my podcast a couple of days ago, Devontae Adams was among the Raiders players smoking cigars after Josh McDaniels was ousted in Vegas. So I don't know if he's keen on coming back to hang out and work with Josh.
No way.
After that, as a player, you want to surround Drake May with more veteran professional receivers. I get that. I just look at Adams and the money he might command and be like, the Patriots were pretty confident singling him up. Granted, Christian Gonzalez was often the one singling him up, but he did little to nothing in that game, and little to nothing except when he was getting a high diet and a ton of targets from Aaron Rodgers. So I think I'm a little out on Devontae Adams.
I would be too.
DK Metcalf, though, would be the top of my list. I think it's as far as trade targets.
Okay, so Seattle is willing to trade DK Metcalf is apparently what's going on, and I don't think you'd have to give up a ton to get him. Where is he at now? Because he's not the number one receiver in Seattle anymore.
They have Smith and Jigma and Lockett, right? But Lockett's on the downside.
Yeah, Lockett's older. So DK Metcalf just turned 27. He had an issue this past year with contested catches. They work with a new offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb, who got fired. He's since gone to work at the University of Alabama. Geno Smith, largely solid season. I think the Seahawks go, A, we're in cap hell. B, you've got 1 year left in your contract. We don't really want to extend you. So we run it back with basically the same team because we can't add all this blue chip talent given our situation, or we trade you. We still have 2 good receivers left over, and we take this second round pick or whatever you might get in return.
I don't even think you give up a second for that, but go ahead.
And flip it or use it and see if we can rebuild that way. So it's not all cap. Obviously, if they wanted to convert a bunch of base salary for different players into signing bonuses, you can create space virtually whenever you want. But they look at Metcalf and go, even though you just turned 27, maybe this is your peak, and we'd rather sell a year or two early than too late.
Okay, what about the notion of just drafting receivers? Because they're so prevalent. I know there's not as many high-end names in this draft, but every year in the second round, there are studs that come out.
Unless it's Jalen Polk.
Unless the Patriots pick them. But look, you can't go by that. What about the notion of just, patch up the offensive line as much as you can to protect Drake May? Get a couple defensive pieces.
I like
and then
that
draft
theory a lot
receivers.
more. Just spend as much money on as you can on the most expensive tackles you can find, and rebuild the offensive line that way, and worry about the receivers after that.
Well, I think you need some talent in the room, obviously with the receivers, but also some professionalism. I mean, how many segments did we do on Tuesdays during the season that were like, "Oh, Kayshon Boutte said this. Jalen Polk thinks he's got the best hands in the league. So-and-so dropped 2 passes. Like KJ Osborne got cut." I think you need an adult in that room, whether it's, Metcalf's not like the, beacon of professionalism, but Cooper Kupp, that's as much the case as the guy has had a really good career. So I would still want a veteran in there in addition to the young talent. To the point about the offensive line, I think their draft plans will heavily depend on what they do in free agency, because there are tackles to be signed, and they might not be great value. But you can't really care about value now.
No.
You just need someone to stop
right
opposing defenses.
You can justify it in, I got to protect this kid. So it's interesting because we got a break, but I told you off air that on my Instagram it came out there was a big trade proposal that, and it seems like this would be equal value. The Chargers give up Cooper Kupp in a 6th-round pick.
Rams.
The Rams, I'm sorry. The same difference. They give up Cooper Kupp in a 6th-round pick. In return, they receive Joey Milton in a 5th-round pick. Kaboom.
And what did I tell you? That's not where Joe Milton's going to wind up.
Nope.
Joe Milton's going to be the starting quarterback of the Jets next year.
Dude, don't worry about the Jets. They're going to have a man by the name of Derek Carr. I mean, look out. It's going to be lights out. You like
Good.
8 9 seasons?
He'll be better than Rodgers.
The talk now, forget it. Everyone gets mad at me for Jets, but the talk about Rodgers nationally is hysterical. It's so obvious that you just can't watch all the games. Well, his numbers were okay. Were they? He stinks. All right, we'll be back in just a moment. A reversal on young Andrew Callahan, as John, who was so dumb throughout your whole 2 stats and a lie situation, has created his own 2 stats and a lie.
Wallach's revenge.
Wallach's revenge.
We'll see.
We will have that for you in just a moment.
You're listening to Toucher and Hardy on the Sports Hub.
When the game tips off, the NBA action is just beginning on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because FanDuel is your home for NBA live betting. So if you missed the first few minutes of the game or want to bet on a fourth-quarter comeback, you can make your picks from the first whistle until the final buzzer. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into same-game parlays for a shot at a bigger payout. However you want to play, now is the perfect time to join. New FanDuel customers can get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. And remember, the 4 Nations is tonight. You're going to be watching it. Maybe get some action on that. Just visit FanDuel.com/Fred to join today. That's FanDuel.com/Fred for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel.
Hour number 2 of Touch Right Hardy was brought to us by Valvoline Instant Oil Change. Enjoy quick and convenient vehicle maintenance this month. Visit NewEnglandOilChange.com for 15% off your drive-through oil change at Valvoline Instant Oil Change, the official oil change of busy people.
Considering testosterone replacement therapy, patients following our approach say this is the best they've felt in years. Find out why. Book today at WellesleyTestosterone.com.
From the Town Fair Tire Studios, this is your home for every Patriots game.
Looking to the end zone, trying to keep the play alive. Falling down, he goes to the end zone. It's got it! Touchdown!
WBZ-FM at HD Boston. 98.5, the Sports Hub. A Beasley Media Group station. Sports Hub headlines. Presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
After a great 2 weeks of hockey, the Four Nations face-off final is tonight at TD Garden as the U.S. plays Canada in a rematch of last Saturday night's 3-1 American win. Matthew Tkachuk wants this game badly.
We care about one thing in this room, and we have millions of people that are watching us and supporting us around this country, and we're very prideful in playing for them and the guys in the room. It's an opportunity of a lifetime for us.
He was out at practice yesterday along with Austin Matthews. Both players are expected to play tonight. Brady Tkachuk, the only player of note who missed the workout for the U.S. team due to illness, but he is also expected to play. Also, after 3 days of trying to get him, it was announced that Canucks defenseman Quinn Hughes will not be flying into play for the Americans. The Bruins are once again without Hampus Lindholm in practice yesterday, with the post-break schedule arriving on Saturday. It is the second straight day he skated before the main group. Celtics will play their first game coming out of the All-Star break tonight in Philadelphia. Xavier Tillman, the only player on the roster unavailable. Grandy and Max have the pregame at 6:30 and the tip-off at 7 here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Patriots have released linebacker Sione Takitaki, and the Red Sox begin their exhibition season tomorrow in Fort Myers against Northeastern. Alex Cora announced yesterday the organization's top 3 prospects, Roman Anthony, Marcelo Mayer, and Christian Campbell, will all be in the lineup. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by the Daytime Deals menu at the 99. Available Monday through Saturday until 5 p.m. Enjoy new specials like the flatbread combos or the Vermont cheddar chicken sandwich. You gotta love the nines. I'm John Wallach at Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 8:30.
New England plays here.
Ball down the right side, there's a separation. Touchdown pass! Yes. Perfect dive from Drake May!
98.5 The Sports Hub.
Fred, what's it like to work with Hardy and Wallach?
What a golden ticket I've gotten.
There you have it. Toucher and Hardy resumes on the Sports Hub.
Hi. Oh, there.
Hello.
John, who is this?
I don't know who this is. I really don't. No idea who this is.
I think this is still Bowling for Soup.
Very loud, that I can tell you. All right, so we are Toucher and Hardy. Andrew Callahan, you hear him. He's in for Hardy. This hour of our show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel. You know, you can go on YouTube and join. I suggest, Andrew, if you want to boost your confidence, get on YouTube and start reading the comments. Because that is something I've, for whatever reason, always been able to avoid. But apparently it's quite an S show over there. There's a lot of, I don't care, they're listening, they count. And especially on YouTube, everyone counts. So watch and flame away. But apparently there's a lot of people whose hobbies are to get on early in the morning and just start the day with a lot of vitriol. That's all I'm saying.
Well, we appreciate the watch and the listen. I get it from YouTube on my channel for the Pat's Interference podcast, Twitter, Blue Sky. Things at Blue Sky initially sold as like, oh, the nice Twitter. A little more toxic nowadays.
Yeah.
It happens. It's the internet.
Yeah. I don't see the purpose of Twitter anymore unless you're just putting out articles and you want to see the articles. Or like that's basically it. Like for even me, which I can't handle Twitter obviously, but even me, there's no reason for me to have Twitter. None. Nothing I'm saying on that would be funny. And nothing I would say on it would be compelling. All it would do would be something that was stupid that I could get in trouble for. That's all it is. Now, Instagram seems like a playpen. You could put videos up and things of that nature. It's easy to manage. And I don't even read the comments on that, generally. If it's a video that gets a lot of comments, I don't even read the comments. I live in this wonderful bubble on Instagram where I'm trying very hard at Fred Toucher to get my follower count up. I saw Steak Shapiro in Atlanta, who's on middays, has 10,000 more followers than me. Now, he probably bought them, but come on. Let's go. All right, look, since Andrew Callahan's here, you remember this. We always do it while he's here, and it's not going to change today, this segment.
Andrew has 2 stats, but he has just 1 lie. Andrew has 2 stats, but he has just 1 lie.
All right, so we know that exists, and Andrew came up with his own bit. It was great. He gave us 2 stats and 1 lie. It was about the Patriots during the season, then it turned into be about other things. And one thing that we learned during the course of it is that I have a weird mental block, but then once I worked that out, I actually ended up doing fairly well. Andrew did a great job. None of us did great.
Yeah, no, Andrew was over 500 against all of us.
But John did especially terrible. He
finished last.
By a lot. By
2 or 3 games, yeah.
He finished well, but
yeah,
it was a low bar.
Yeah, I was back after I got eliminated from the race. That's when.
Yeah, he was eliminated like week 14. And we probably did this 25 times.
Yeah.
But he's rebuilding, I think is how we put it. You know,
I got the first
sell
pick of the
yourself
draft,
on
man.
that momentum into next season.
But Andrew, isn't it so fun to be the guy tricking everyone else and making everyone else feel bad? Well, there's a certain bit of revenge in the air today as our own Jonathan has created this.
I got 2 stats and just 1 lie. Yeah, I got 2 stats and just 1 stinking lie.
All right.
Oh, baby.
All right, Andrew Callahan, are you ready?
Never been more ready.
All right, am I participating in this too? Or is
You
this
can participate, sure.
Will it take away some of the shame of Andrew not getting it right if I participate? Let's have Andrew go and commit to all his answers, then I'll give my guess.
All right, so we have 3 stats. One of these is a lie. Are you ready to write this down?
Yeah, I'm good.
How are you approaching? Are you going to write any of this down, or are you doing this from memory?
No, I'll write him down. I saw Hardy do this first, and I think his hit rate also went up over the course of the season. So
Okay, but you'll recall I did much better than Hardy. And I really don't write anything down.
Your mental process throughout the season was truly remarkable.
It was a roller coaster.
Well, I would have had a winning record if I didn't have this brain block, and it was enough. Like, I'm not joking. Like, and John will attest to this. Like, off air, I was like, I wonder what's wrong with my brain.
That's true. That was a conversation after you.
I would know the answer. So what would happen is Andrew would give these 2 stats and 1 lie, and I would know the answer, but I couldn't figure out how to express it. If that makes any sense.
Yes.
Like, I couldn't figure out. Like, conceptually, how to relate that
you would say number 1 is the lie, so I'm going number 2.
Yeah,
number 2, I'm selecting.
And Andrew and I would look at each other like, "This really
It's
happening
like
in
you
real
did just
time?"
take a number 2. That's you had this right there,
I know,
and you
it's
flew it
pretty
down the
remarkable.
middle. Yeah.
What?
But you did finish first, so we can't argue too much.
Huh?
Yeah.
I'll just talk of number 2. All right, so very good. All right, let's go. Let's have Jonathan
All right.
do this. It's exciting. Let's go.
Number 1. The Patriots had a total of 11 different starting quarterbacks from 1982 to 1992. That is the exact same number of starting quarterbacks they have had since then.
Repeat.
Once again, the Patriots had a total of 11 different starting quarterbacks from 1982 to 1992. That is the exact same number of starting quarterbacks they have had since then.
Okay.
All right?
Very good.
Number 2. Drake May, according to Pro Football Reference, Andrew, had 9 fumbles in his rookie season. That's 1 more than Super Bowl champion and NFL rushing leader Saquon Barkley has had in his entire career. Once again, Drake May, credited with 9 fumbles in his rookie season. That is 1 more than Saquon Barkley has had in his entire career. Okay?
Yep.
Number 3, Drake May, born on August 30th, 2002. On that date, Andrew Callahan, this song was number 1 atop the Billboard charts. We had this worked out.
You weren't in
35.
your 20s. Yeah, I was
30.
No, you were
35,
older than that.
35.
2002, I was 27.
Yeah.
And Andrew Callahan was 11.
35. Yes. So, Andrew Callahan, do you remember that song?
Yes.
Okay. So that was the number one song on the day that Drake May was born. So 2 stats and 1 lie. Which is the lie, Andrew Callahan?
So number one, you use the word exact, which gives you no margin for error. And that seems to have a high likelihood that that is incorrect. And I have scribbled down 10 of the quarterbacks that have been starters for the Patriots since 1992. Drew Bledsoe, Tom Brady, Jacoby Brissett, Jimmy Garoppolo, Scott Zolak, Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi, Drake May, Testaverde, and Matt Castle.
Testaverde played
sports bit. I'm not going to be that upset with myself. I will... This is trouble. Do you have an answer, Fred? I know you're not going to share, but do you think you know?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to go that number one is the lie. I don't think there's been exactly 11 from 82 to 92.
I can read John like a book.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so his answer is number one.
Number
That's
one.
locked in.
And what is your answer?
3.
3 is your answer.
Because I know Johnny Wallgame. I read his poker face.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew's wrong. That I know. I'm going 3.
So you say number 1 is the lie. You say number 3 is the lie. Andrew Callahan, you got me. You are correct.
Oh, Jonathan.
Oh, Fred, hold on.
How dare you?
I can't believe I didn't get him.
How dare you, Jonathan?
Callahan pissed me off. I thought I had him.
You got him.
I got you, so that's fine.
I just because I thought you were going to outstat him, and then you were going to throw in.
Of course, that's what I was trying to do.
At the King. You best not miss. Oh, Freddie, too. I can read John like a book.
All right.
Oh, number 1 is definitely true.
All right.
Woo!
It takes 2 steps to the other night.
Oh, I need a cigarette.
So, 11 starting quarterbacks from 1982 to 92. Steve Grogan, Tom Ramsey, Tony Eason, Bob Blyer, who no one will ever remember, Doug Flutie, Mark Wilson, Tommy Hodson, Hugh Millen, Scott Zolak, Jeff Carlson. Okay?
Mark Wilson played for the Patriots.
Wilson started in 1992. Starting in 93.
He'll forever be a Raider. Go ahead.
Starting in 93, Drew Bledsoe's rookie year. Bledsoe, Scott Secules for 4 games. Scott Zolak again. Tom Brady. Matt Castle in 2008. Jacoby Brissett and Jimmy Garoppolo in 2016. Cam Newton and Brian Hoyer in 2020.
Damn.
Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi, Drake May. 12.
So no starts for Testaverde.
No.
But yeah, 12. Okay.
We're positive Testaverde played for the Patriots.
He did at one point.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely did.
He was the best Jets quarterback of my lifetime.
You know what, too? They had Brady would start those games and then sit after one quarter, and they had locked up the number 1 seed. That's why I can see them vividly in my mind. I also covered Cam Newton for a whole freaking season.
And didn't get it. And he still got it right. Jesus. God damn you, accountant.
Oh, yes.
So what I would have done if I was you, John, is I would have really, to screw him, I would have played the number 2 song in the United States the day that came out.
Yeah.
Or you could have humiliated him by playing a song that wasn't even of that decade.
Oh.
All right, the next time you're in, I'm gonna give you a 2-stat song.
Yes. I can't wait to tell Hardy this.
Yeah, I know. He's gonna be furious. He's gonna get furious at John.
2 stats. Oh, it's got 2 stats and just 1 lie. It only has 1 lie. Yeah, I've got 2 stats, baby. Oh, it's got 2 stats and just 1 lie, but only has 1 lie.
All right, well, Jonathan, look, no revenge today.
Damn.
This is so good. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, John.
Yeah,
Thank you,
Nick, by
everybody.
the way, fantastic job. Thank you.
All right, well, look, Andrew, that was not satisfying for anyone in this room.
No. I thought I had him. And what's really going to piss me off is he forgot a quarterback and still got it.
2 of them.
Didn't
Brian
have
Hoyer.
Cam Newton and still had
Oh, he
it.
made a fool of himself while explaining his answer.
These are the consolation points that Fred wants at the end. I get a half one. Oh, he made a fool of
No,
himself, but he
it
won.
legit angers me that I had you and you still got it right. That's unbelievable.
Exactly 11, though. That's anytime I had done
The
exactly
phrasing.
it was
The
Right,
phrasing,
phrasing
you're
was
saying.
wrong. I'm
Came from a position of power because you had made so many.
I've been in that brain
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'll learn, John.
That's the thing, is that John was very weak. Because I thought he could easily get you on a song, so I would just screw around with the song.
See, that's what I thought when I did that. I thought he's going to remember that.
Yeah, he got me because that's would have been the easiest way to fool you.
Yes.
But he chose not to
Of
take that
course.
path.
I tried the. So I overthought
You tried to,
it.
yeah, tried to.
I overthought it
You
because
tried
that's
to
what
double
I
cross.
thought that he would think.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. All right, well, look, we can all agree that Nelly's song sucks.
Yes, we all agree that.
But he was a Saint lunatic, and he's so. Him and Jason Tatum are so important to that area, and the Kachuk brothers for that matter. All St. Louis natives. St. Louis, not a fun town to go to. I will tell you that. I like the baseball team there because of my parents, but not so much for going there to the games. All right, well, look, that was unsatisfying. I apologize to the audience for that. Andrew did, though, make a fool of himself by not knowing the quarterback names. So we have that, John, to hang on to. All right, very good. We will be back in just a moment. We're going to be joined by a friend of our own Andrew Callahan, Mark Daniels.
I wouldn't go that far.
This
associate,
is how it starts.
An associate. I'm going to let you two kids just pull each other's pigtails.
Hash it out.
All right, as Hardy would say, I'm starting to steal his lines. All right, we'll be back in just a moment with Mark Daniels. He's got an interesting article out about some off-season possibilities for the Patriots.
Go on, girl!
You're listening to Toucher and Hardy.
I thought this was gonna I Love It Loud by Kiss, and I was gonna get all excited. I wanna hear it loud, right between the eyes. I love it. Kiss were great. We are Toucher and Hardy. Andrew Callahan from the Herald is filling in for Hardy today. It's been a lot of fun. But I'll tell you this, Mark Daniels is a direct competitor. The two are like hungry lions fighting over raw meat when it comes to these Patriots. Mark Daniels, is there a sense of intimidation, or are you going to be the alpha in this conversation?
Let's see. I have been to the gym with Andrew, so like there was some intimidation there because he's a much larger human being than me. But I thought I held my own as someone who's older and a slighter build. So it's I'd say a friendly competition.
You're like a Brad Pitt in Fight Club, and he's like Lou Ferrigno. The ladies like the Slender Man. Don't worry about it, Mark. How much he putting up? I never thought of him that way. How much is Andrew putting up in the gym?
He was impressive. I think his warm up was more of like my not max, but I have to warm up to his warm up. Put it that way.
Why were you guys in the gym together? Was this?
It's actually my first year in the beat. This is 2018. Yeah. Just palling around, and he was gracious enough to go with me. His wife's also a trainer, so I figure if I'm screwing up anything, Mark will probably be able to help me out.
Were you in L.A.? Were you at Gold's Gym?
We were at Canton, actually, covering the Curran retrial before it got started, like Bird's friend, because we were just local.
I know that's a lie because you don't live in Canton.
No, it actually was. This was like my gym on the way down, because there was one. I used to live at the North End. There was a Boston Sports Club, and there was another one in Canton. Then they decided to charge everyone through the pandemic, so I gave up Boston Sports Club. But at the time, 2018, it wasn't far from the stadium, so we went a couple of times, and we threw around I don't know. What banging and clanging is probably the douchiest way to say lifting.
Yeah,
we were banging and clanging.
Pretty much.
Were you doing PRs in front of Mark to put him in his place? You're going personal records?
No, he it's funny he says intimidation, because in a moment of honesty, and I want Mark to confirm after this, that aside from our blood feud, everyone on the beat genuinely gets along down in Foxborough. That was my first year. Like, I was working with people like Mark and Doug and certainly Reese and Curran and everybody else that I had read for a while and caught up. So that whole year, the first few years, I'm like, I'm kind of just barely treading water here. So to hang out with them and to work with them is how I kind of felt going into work most days. But no, not anymore. Not anymore here.
No. You showed him that who's the boss. All right, look.
That'd be better now.
At Mass Live, Mark, you have the Patriots could sign one of these five talented wide receivers. One of them is T. Higgins. It looks like he might be franchised. Is that still the case?
Yeah, I mean, I strategically had that story posted on Monday, the day before franchise tag stuff would break, so I could write about T. Higgins. Yeah, I think the problem with trying to find a legit number one receiver in his prime in free agency is that they're almost never available. So the fact that the Bengals will probably transition tag, I think it sounds like, T. Higgins, isn't a surprise. It's unfortunate, but it's just like, you think about the years, like when's the last time like a legit stud receiver has hit the open market? It just almost never happens, right? It's like if you're a team and you can't re-sign T. Higgins, you might as well trade him, a la what the Titans did with A.J. Brown. But yeah, sounds like T. Higgins will be off the board. Not a surprise at all for me, but, unfortunate for the Patriots. They're going to have to try a little bit harder to find a legit weapon for Drake May.
Were you sold on him as a number one, even though with he playing next to Jamar Chase and the hamstring injuries and everything? Were you convinced that he was a number one?
No, I look at him more as like a 1B, but the problem is the Patriots need that. Like, I mean, honestly, they could bring in Darius Slayton, and Darius Slayton is your number one. Like, T. Higgins would fill an immediate need because they need a better X receiver. They need someone who's bigger on the outside, and that's T. Now, there's a ton of concerns, but I think in a lot of ways the Patriots have neglected the receiver position. They've made a lot of bad decisions, and when you do that, you have to pay someone like T. Higgins $35 million. So for me, it was more like, I guess you got to do it.
All right, so what about drafting? What about what is another strategy? If you we were talking to Andrew about this. If you were the Patriots and you're not satisfied with what's out there with wide receivers, what's your strategy in terms of free agency at that point?
Yeah, if you don't love the receivers, honestly, the strategy should be to try to trade for one. I mean, even if it's a Cooper Kupp or Deebo Samuel who might only be here for 2 years, that would give Drake May, I'd say an upgrade for the next 2 years. Like, yeah, sure, Cooper Kupp isn't who he was 3 years ago, but Cooper Kupp is still better than anyone you have. And I think they should, if they don't like the free agent options, I really think they need to trade for someone. And like, I'll tell you this about the draft. What I've heard is this class isn't as strong as last year. Like at number 4, the Patriots don't have a Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze. Like if any of those 3 guys were in this year's class, they would be, I think, a lock for number 4 if they were there.
Isn't it funny that none of them were the best receiver? That the receiver for Jacksonville was
Thomas.
Brian Thomas.
Yeah, Brian Thomas, legit. And like the top guy is Tet McMillan, but like I don't know if it's like you guys are like the N'Keal Harry situation. It might have scarred me because when I read about this kid, Tet McMillan, and I see 6'4", 6'5", doesn't separate, jumps over people, I'm like, oh, man, are we going to do this again? And maybe that's my bias of just watching N'Keal Harry come in and underperform, but, like, that scares me.
But he can move his body around. That's the difference between him and N'Keal Harry, though. He's like a contortionist. I've just seen highlights. What do I know? But he looks... Yeah. He looks more impressive than N'Keal Harry did. I can tell you that. But go ahead, Andrew.
Mark, you mentioned trades. I brought up DK Metcalf, speaking of 6'4", 6'5", earlier. And I know, obviously, you and I covered the game week 2. He breaks out against the Patriots. But his season-long stats last year were a little depressed compared to his prime. He's still only 27. I would be in the neighborhood if I'm Elliott Wolf or Ryan Cowden or whomever, calling Seattle around a second-round pick. I'm not going much higher. Where are you on DK Metcalf, or is there someone higher on your board of trade targets?
I love DK Metcalf. I think he'd be perfect for Drake May. I mean, Drake May has, as you know, has a cannon, and like a guy who's super athletic can run past cornerbacks like that big. Absolutely. Sign me up. I would absolutely trade a second-round pick. I might even trade a little bit more. I might package a second and a fourth. I do wonder with DK, is that someone, if you're the Seahawks, do you demand a first? I mean, if it's a late first, sure. Obviously, I'm not trading a top 10 pick, but if they could land DK Metcalf, it would be a home run for me because that's exactly what the Patriots need. They need an athletic receiver in his prime who's a stud. And just like guys like that, it's just so hard to find them. Like sure, I would prefer AJ Brown over DK Metcalf. I don't know. I think that might be a pipe dream though for the Patriots.
So why
do you think AJ Brown shakes loose?
I don't. I think that's a pipe dream. Like Andrew asked, like, would DK Metcalf be a top of my list? Yeah, of realistic options. Yeah. But like, the Mike Vrabel, AJ Brown stuff, that's legit. They have a legitimate good relationship. And if in some, world where AJ Brown wanted to leave or the Eagles wanted to clear cap space, I think that would be the perfect fit. But like, if not the perfect fit, give me DK Metcalf. I think he would be phenomenal with Drake May.
So we're going to talk mock drafts coming up here with Ryan Wilson of CBS at 9 o'clock. So I ask you at 4, where do the Patriots go? Now that we're factoring in the wide receiver, you've already said you don't want Tet McMillan, so he's gone. He's not an option at 4. We were discussing this earlier. It just seems like now's the time to beef up the lines, offensive and defensive, simply because they're running out of options here. It's the quickest way to help your football team out.
Yeah, 100%. I'm right there with you. Like I'm a Will Campbell guy. Like if Abdul Carter isn't there, if Travis Hunter isn't there, I'm Will Campbell all the way. I don't care if his arm length is a half inch shorter than what it should be. Like I've talked to people who scout in the NFL who think Will Campbell is a plug and play tackle. Like a guy you draft, he starts immediately and he's there for the next 8 to 10 years. Like guys, sign me up for that. Like I'd honestly sign someone like a Ronnie Stanley or a legit free agent option. I would probably draft Will Campbell if the other 2 guys aren't there.
Short arms. His arms are short.
Yeah. I don't care about that as much. Like, or
the T-Rex is still the king of the dinosaur world.
Well,
okay?
Boyd,
short
like
arms
that.
be damned.
I like
Will
that.
Campbell. I know it's
How
a boring,
do they
boring answer, but I love it. I love that guy. I think he's going to be good. So
I'm with you on the Will Campbell train, Mark. I want to backtrack to free agency because I know I've uttered Ronnie Stanley's name probably more than any family member or friend in the last 2 months as we talk about what the Patriots are going to do in free agency. What about a sleeper candidate? Because you've got a good series going on in Mass Live, 5 players at every position the Patriots should look into. Who's someone that you really like but is not going to be a day one, headline splash kind of free agent signing?
I'll give you my favorite. Baltimore Ravens guard / tackle, Patrick McCarry. Makari has started every position on the offensive line for the Ravens. Last year, he started at left guard. The year before, he started at right tackle. And I would argue the Patriots need an upgrade at left guard and or right tackle. A guy like Patrick Makari, he's 27 years old. That type of versatility to bring in on a veteran who has, so much experience, I think it would be great for the Patriots. Like, you sign Patrick Makari, he could give you an upgrade at left guard. But if you really like Layden Robinson, maybe Patrick Makari starts at right tackle. Like, I mean, if you have two starting guards who could also play right tackle, Michael Oweno and Patrick Makari, I think that would work wonders. So that's sort of one of my guys here. I like him. There are some other people who might roll their eyes at him. I tweeted about him yesterday, and someone said he was like a fat fullback. I don't know what they mean by that, but like, hey, he started at left guard for the Ravens, right guard before that. He started at center, right guard, left tackle. Like sign me up for someone like that.
He's got a fat fullback name. Like if you just asked me what does Patrick Makari do for a living, and I had no idea that he played for the Ravens, that would be probably my first three guesses. All right, very good.
All right, well, there you go. I mean, there you have it. All right, well, Mark Daniels, listen, everyone read him on Mass Live, and just know if you're going to the gym, there could be some intimidation tactics, as we've learned that Mark Daniels' wife is a personal trainer, and that Andrew Callahan is no stranger to putting up a lot of iron.
But the more we talk, the more we try and talk through all of this, and you see wide receivers disappearing, and this is the rare year where it's a down year for drafting wide receivers. It's boring, but it's easy to point at the Eagles and say, "Do that," but I think ultimately that's what's going to happen.
Well, Mark, is this fair? Like, my point last year was just you had to do better than Chuks Okorafor. Like, you can't come out of that season without a proven left tackle. And even if the options aren't great, like John's saying, and you're both right, do they just have to do better at receiver? Like, this is what Elliott Wolf and Ryan Cowden are being paid for, if nothing else.
Yeah, even honestly, like Darius Slayton, his name I brought up, but like Darius Slayton would be the most accomplished receiver on your roster. And frankly, he might be more of like a Jacoby Myers, but like Jacoby Myers is a good receiver. Darius Slayton would be an upgrade. Even if it was someone like Amari Cooper, who doesn't get me too excited on like a 1 or 2 year deal, I would do it because I think you have to help Drake May. And priority number one is the trenches. You protect them, but you have to just find at least someone who's legitimate. Like, it's been too long. Your last 1,000-yard receiver is Julian Edelman, 2019. Your last Pro Bowl pass catcher is Rob Gronkowski. Like, enough is enough. Go and find someone. At this point, it's like, even if you had to trade a future first, which people don't want to do, and say it brings you DK Metcalf, just do it. It's just enough is enough.
You think it would take a future first to get DK Metcalf?
I'm just saying, even if it did, I might do it just because I think you're so desperate you're desperate enough that they offered Brandon Ayuk $35 million a year, last summer when the offer on the table was 30. So like, I think they are a little bit desperate.
All right. Very good. Well, Mark Daniels, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it as always.
Thank you guys.
Good talking to you, pal.
I'm watching McMillan highlights right now. Against New Mexico, he had like 4 touchdowns, could have been 5.
See, so did N'Keal Harry, though. You look at his stats, to Mark's point, and they're different players.
Same school, different school?
They're both former, current Pac-12 conversation. I think that's where it comes from. But he ate versus lower competition, so the season-long stats look good. Mm-hmm. And then you got
he looked pretty good against Texas Tech. He had a pretty big game against Texas Tech. Texas Tech's not a bad team at all. They got more NIL money than maybe anyone.
Well, I don't know if they've ever played defense, though.
Okay.
But here's the thing. I'm not super high on him. I've come around a little bit more, and him at the Combine is someone is near the top of my list of players I want to find out more about next week.
So if he runs under a 4.45, then you're like, okay.
Well, and also talking to scouts or people around the league at night. Hey, what do you think of so-and-so? And I watched this tape. What do you think?
We're back getting drunk in Indianapolis at 2 a.m.
Hopefully not that late. Well, it will be that late, but hopefully I get more on Ted McMillan before it's 2 a.m.
Hey, you brought this up. This is where the information comes from.
It really is. I think the more they build out the Combine, the less of what you're watching is actually what the Combine is. It's a made-for-television event. Teams have never cared less about what you see on TV as they scout players. What they go for is to gossip, and same with the media.
All right. Well, look. That's it sounds like fun. It sounds like Indianapolis goes crazy around the Combine, and we'll be sure to talk to you around that. But the Boston Bruins are apparently very angry. We had Andrew Callahan ranting and carrying on in the 6 o'clock hour about how you're going to have this tournament every year now. And I said, well, you're having it every other year. They can't have it every year. there's too much. Well, there was a gentleman on the radio in Toronto, so you know it's official.
Oh, good.
And he was talking about the Bruins, and they are not happy. We will have that for you in just a moment. Here are the headlines.
Essential Sports Hub.
And we'll be listening this morning at 8:55 for a chance to win a pair of tickets to see Nikki Glazer this Sunday at the Bach Center. Get yours before they're gone at bachcenter.org. Why is Nikki Glazer playing the Bach Center and Tom Segura is playing the Garden?
Yeah, you would think they'd flip that.
Yeah,
weird.
Isn't Nikki Glazer a way, way, way more famous comedian? She's a way better comedian.
She could sell out the Garden like nothing. That makes no sense to me at all.
Well, listen, it's an opportunity to see Nikki Glazer at a smaller venue, which is what you want. I don't know why you'd go see comedy at the Garden, to be honest with you. I don't know what the attraction is. That it takes away it takes away the whole vibe. It takes away all the improvisation. I don't like it. Well, look, you know Elliot Friedman, John?
I do.
He's a big NHL insider, right?
Yep, for I believe it's Sportsnet in Canada.
And you know Toronto radio, what do they care about?
Hockey.
Here's Elliot Friedman on Toronto radio, where they dress very nice. Here is them on Elliot Friedman on Toronto radio yesterday.
I think the people who are the angriest, Nick, is the team, the Bruins. Like, if you read their statement today, they make it very clear that they are unhappy with how this all went down, that they don't feel that their player was given the proper treatment. It seems now that McAvoy was originally injured in the opener against Finland. There's a play where Yoel Armia takes him hard into the post, and it sounds like, I don't know if he got a shot or something. I don't know exactly what happened, but he played Saturday, it looks like here, with much more severe an injury than he was initially led to believe, and everybody was initially led to believe, which makes his performance, as you mentioned, all that more impressive. And so from what I understand, on Monday, he was in a bit more pain, and he was admitted to hospital, and they realized the injury was more severe than believed or initially diagnosed. And number two, there was an infection there that had to be operated on and removed. So I don't know if he was given a needle or something like that, or a shot or something like that, and it got infected, but it was something along these lines. The one thing is, I remember yesterday when it was the Bruins and not Team USA that announced that McAvoy was out, there were people saying, how come the Bruins, whose GM is the GM of Team Canada, are announcing that Charlie McAvoy wouldn't play? And then it became pretty clear it's because the Bruins were extremely unhappy with the way this had been handled, and that they felt that in this particular case, McAvoy didn't get the proper care.
All right. This is why you cannot do this every year. It's ridiculous. If guys are now playing, again, they're going to do a World Cup every other year. They're going to do the Olympics every other year. It's too much. If guys are playing through injuries to get through a game, and that's taking them out of a season for where they're getting paid, what they're getting paid for, which is their job, that is ludicrous.
He makes a good point, and one that I just mentally kind of skipped over. Team USA didn't announce that McAvoy was going to miss the championship. The Bruins did before they could. And I can see the Bruins were pissed. Okay, if you guys aren't going to say it, we are. That's our guy. He's not playing for you. That's it. So, and in a way, that's to save the player from itself. If you give McAvoy the option, and McAvoy said, yeah.
Well, he already did it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to play in this championship game. I don't care how much pain I'm in. I want to play. The Bruins were like, screw this. This is our property. We're paying him, $50 million. There's not a chance in hell he's suiting up for you
which
guys.
is why, despite the ratings for those for last Saturday and the ratings for tonight,
the players care too much.
That if I'm an owner, go screw.
Yeah.
Like again, if I lose a Tkachuk or a McAvoy, say the Bruins it was any other year but this year. Say it was last year, the year before, and 2 years ago, and they lose McAvoy because of this, and it costs them. They're a team that you're looking to be a cup contender,
right?
And they lose McAvoy. It's a gigantic story. It's just because they suck that it's kind of being glossed over a little bit more than it normally would. If I own a team, it's neat that people are watching this, and it's great. And, we'll do a World Cup and we'll do the Olympics. But no, not every middle of the season are we going to have some exhibition where my guys are getting shot up, apparently, to play through injuries.
Think about Shea Theodore. Think about, again, if I'm the Florida Panthers GM, my heart's in my throat watching Matthew Tkachuk hit a guy in the head, 5 seconds into a game. That doesn't matter.
Right, and the likelihood of breaking your hand in a fight is not a shooting star situation.
It's not a wild thing. Well, how can you bring that up? No, that happens all the time.
No, it happens all the time. And the things is that guys that fight a lot play through broken fingers and crap like that. But Tkachuk can't play through that. I mean, he's required to do too much. So, look, if I'm the Bruins, I'm super pissed. If I'm a Bruins fan, I'm a little pissed too. It's too much. It shouldn't mean more than the Stanley Cup. It just shouldn't. It's an exhibition, and you even said it, Andrew. It's an exhibition where there's not. It's like what do you get? What do you get? You get bragging rights.
Yeah, it's a made-up tournament, and I don't say that totally dismissively because we're talking about it. Everyone has cared about this in an outsized way that no one really expected, and that should be celebrated. That's the most exciting February hockey I've watched in a non-Olympic year. But to your point, there is a cost to this, and it's not just the time and the energy and guys having to go back and play this weekend. It's just ask Charlie McAvoy. I think catching up on some more details of this story, and I know Ty Anderson has reported it here for the Hub, is that Team USA's medical team is the same group for the Minnesota Wild. They gave the Bruins problem last year when they traded for Pat Maroon, and there was a disagreement over that diagnosis. So I don't think there's any. I would guess any kind of conspiracy here.
No.
But those details of a very central player here of we couldn't trust their assessment of Maroon, who had to wait until April last year to hit the ice. For us, once they acquired him, Charlie McAvoy's just down the street. And I understand, obviously played up in Montreal, but point is, this next game is in Boston. They've been in Boston for a while. Why shouldn't we just get our hands on him?
Listen, if the Bruins were in charge of Team USA, would McAvoy have even played in the Canada game? That's the thing. No. He wouldn't. Not a chance. Nope. So what a guy from another team let him play with an injury that now is infected and worse. By the way, we don't even know what's going on with his shoulder. Because there was that one report that he'll be fine, and that's not true.
Well, the Bruins released a statement saying it's significant damage to the AC joint in his shoulder.
Because remember when we were on the air and I was saying, I heard it was a shoulder? I don't care about that. But remember I was saying it was a shoulder?
Yes.
And I go, I'm wrong. Because that guy came out and said, it's an infection. He's fine. It's just they got to deal with an infection. Well, that's not true. He's hurt. And as Billy Jaffe said yesterday, week to week means a month. And now if you're the Bruins and you're in a pile of garbage to try to sneak into the last playoff spot, a pile of garbage other teams, with the trade deadline coming up, Fluto wrote about it. I mean, now you got to move guys. Now you're not playing for the playoffs. Any pipe dream of these next 4 games, remember, it was these next 4 games were going to dictate what they do at the trade deadline. Well, now that's over. So if you're a Bruin fan and a season ticket holder, congratulations. You've lost one of the 2 most important players on this team.
The trade deadline is 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Yeah, you lost one of the 2 most important players on this team because he played through an injury in an exhibition game. And I like the tournament, obviously. It's great for hockey, but it's not that great for hockey. Yeah. I mean, you still have a fan base that you have to have.
I never thought I'd say it, but the players care too much. That's why we can't have this anymore.
John, you played audio. They care more about this than they do about playing in the playoffs.
And I have a John Cooper thing I'm gonna play during the update here at the top where he's like, we know what this means back home. The Canadians are over the moon about this.
See, Canada cares too much, and that was my point earlier. Is that this is all Canada mixing this all up. Canada's out of their minds with this stuff. Yep. They really are. It's fascinating how much they care about this.
It's all fascinating. I mean, it's happened so fast. Just everything, your expectations for what this will be, or should have been, have all been exceeded. I would, you juxtapose this to the NBA All-Star Game, obviously a very different event, but you have an issue of guys caring too much, and we all enjoy it, even if we see the physical consequences of this paid with your bodies in your part of your career, or would you prefer guys care too little in an event that is basically dead on arrival?
You can't in hockey unless you're not playing defense. I mean, you can't play halfway. Well, the juxtaposition with the NBA All-Star Game was part of the was a huge win for the NHL.
Right, but even in a vacuum, theoretically, would you care now knowing that there are consequences to guys caring too much, as you put it, or would you prefer guys care too little and there's no risk involved for the rest of the season?
What I would be is I'd say, all right, I'm like, it is what it is for the good of the game. Every other year we'll do an international event, but the other years it's an ice skating contest. I don't want anyone touching anyone. I'm not doing this every year.
And that's something I will aggressively not watch.
Huh? The
ice skating contest.
Well, no, yeah, but that's a game. Again, it's a game. We're talking about 82 games and the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
They still depend on gate. You know, if it costs $200 to buy a ticket to a game, not on secondary, it's $200 to buy a ticket, and there's 18,000 tickets. It's a lot of money per playoff game. You know, there's $500 tickets. I mean, they're making a lot of money on gate. The NHL doesn't have a deal like the NFL where it's $10 billion. I mean, they need the gate. Major League Baseball needs the gate. The Cardinals completely depend on their gate. All right, caller number 10 to the contest line, 617-931-0985. Will score a pair of tickets to see Nikki Glaser this Sunday at the Box Center on her Alive and Unwell tour. Her first 5 shows this weekend. Oh, now that's why she's playing the Box Center. Her first 5 shows this weekend are sold out, with limited tickets available for the 6. Get yours before they're gone at boxcenter.org. All right, if you can play the Box Center 6 times, I guess that makes sense. All right, we'll be back in just a moment.
Toucher and Hardy, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
College basketball.
station. Sports Hub headlines presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
The Four Nations face-off finalists tonight at TD Garden. Team USA has their rematch against Team Canada for the championship. There's a lot on the line for Canada head coach John Cooper in this one.
When it's all said and done, we pull this off, we'll know what this all meant for everybody at home. And we're very cognizant of that.
The U.S. had Austin Matthews and Matthew Tkachuk at practice yesterday, but they were without Brady Tkachuk, who was battling an illness. However, all three men are expected back in the lineup for this one. Norris Trophy winner Quinn Hughes will not join the team for tonight, but the U.S. reportedly has New Jersey defenseman Brett Pesce and Buffalo center Tage Thompson on standby if needed. As for the Bruins, they'll be back from the break on Saturday night at home against Anaheim, but there is some mounting concern for defenseman Hampus Lindholm. He once again did not skate with the main group at practice yesterday. Celtics come back from the All-Star break tonight. They're in Philadelphia. Grandy and Max have the pregame at 6:30 and the tip-off at 7 here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. The Patriots have released linebacker Sione Takitaki, and the Red Sox begin their exhibition season tomorrow in Fort Myers against Northeastern. Alex Cora announced yesterday that the organization's top three prospects, Roman Anthony, Marcelo Mayer, and Christian Campbell, will all start and play 5 innings in that game. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by the new Daytime Deals menu at the 99. Available Monday through Saturday until 5 p.m. Enjoy new specials like the flatbread combo or the Vermont cheddar cheese chicken sandwich. You gotta love the nines. I'm John Wallach of Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 9:30.
Boston play.
He got the job and they didn't make the playoffs that first year. That guy, the 1 year that they gave him like semi-command of the roster, they took a guard with the 11th overall pick. Not only did they take a guard with the 11th overall pick, they took a guard who sucks.
From Tennessee bitching about how Vrabel's not good at drafting players. And we have Andrew Callahan from the Boston Herald in here. We were brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel. We're also on YouTube, so you can subscribe to 98.5 The Sports Hub on YouTube. Ryan Wilson, he writes for CBSSports.com. You, Ryan, are in the midst of another professional football writer. So just hang on to your hat, my friend.
Be intimidated, sir.
Oh, no intimidation.
If it makes you feel any better, I haven't written in a while. I cover the draft, so I do more on-air stuff. So you're safe. I'm safe. I think this is we're in a good place.
You're in new media, and Andrew's he's still getting the fish wrap. He's still getting his hands dirty with the ink. I understand what you're saying.
I'm a dinosaur. The T-Rex that is Will Campbell still dominated.
Now you're on
in the ancient world.
Now you are on the radio, which is another medium that's taken off. All right, Ryan. All right, the Patriots got the 4th pick. It seems like there could be a lot of – well, it just seems like more than most drafts, these mocks could not be accurate in that, there's not that Caleb Williams, there's not that Drake May, there's not that Jaden Daniels, there's not that Marvin Harrison Jr. How in flux is the top of this draft to you?
Oh, it's pretty wild. And the Tennessee guy that was fired up about the Peter Skoronski pick. In Peter Skoronski's defense, he had an appendectomy halfway through his rookie season. He was actually playing pretty well.
But that's on him. I mean, you can't have bad appendix.
Fair enough. Or maybe Vrabel should have done a really deep dive on the medicals there. So I don't want to ding Vrabel too much for that. But in terms of the top of the draft and going back to the Tennessee Titans, the question becomes, does Brian Callahan, the second-year head coach, want to invest in Will Levis, the guy he didn't draft? They have their new GM. And the draft at the top with the quarterbacks isn't last year. You talked about Caleb, and that was a special class, 6 guys in the top 12, and many of those guys played pretty well or extremely well in their rookie seasons.
Is there even a Bo Nix? Okay, because Bo Nix, a lot of people thought was overdrafted, right? And he ended up playing well. Is there even a guy as good as Bo Nix or J.J. McCarthy in this draft?
Absolutely. And I always say if you put Cam, Ward, and Shadur Sanders in last year's draft class, you're probably talking about the QB4 range. before the season. I don't think anyone expected, probably even folks in Bo Nix's family, for him to play as well as he did. And I think that I don't want to take anything away from Bo Nix because he had a fantastic season. But I think it just reinforces the point that fit matters as well.
Sure.
Caleb Williams didn't exactly hit it out of the park because there's a lot of stuff going on around him, and he was still figuring out how to play. Jaden Daniels hit a grand slam. Bo Nix hit a 3-run homer in terms of the way they played based on expectations and how those teams were set up prior to their arrival. And I think if you get Cam Ward in the right situation or if you get Shedeur Sanders in the right situation, there's chance for success. The issue, of course, is when you're picking top 5, top 10, those teams usually stink, and the chances for success are pretty minuscule. So if I'm the Tennessee Titans, I think long and hard about Cam Ward because you have to keep drafting quarterbacks until you get it right. Now, you got to hire the right people to get it right, but I don't know if you want to live it. If you can have 21 Hall of Famers in your roster, if you don't have a quarterback, you're not going very far in the playoffs.
Okay, so Cam Ward is a physical specimen. I understand that. Shedeur Sanders seems to be – he's not big. He's not fast. His arm strength's not fantastic
But other
from
than
what
that,
I've heard. Like, why is Shedeur Sanders such a big – I actually am curious, such a big QB prospect?
Well, he's incredibly tough, and, there's more to be said for toughness. By the way, the description you use for Shedeur Sanders is not wrong, but it's also the description we use for Joe Burrow coming out. And
okay.
I talked to Joe Burrow at the Combine, and I said, when did it all sort of click for you? Because he had to leave Ohio State, and his first season, at the end of that season, LSU, it started to come together, and the final season is what we all saw and witnessed together. And he said part of the issue was physically my body hadn't caught up to what I could do mentally. I knew what I wanted to do. My body just wasn't capable of doing it until I got bigger and stronger. And Shedeur, saw him in person at the Shrine Bowl. He's bigger than I thought. He is slight of frame. He has a good enough arm. He's a good enough athlete. But those are concerns. Those are legitimate concerns. And that's why I think most folks, myself included, lean towards Cam Ward, because those are things you don't have to worry about when you draft Caleb Williams, when you draft Drake May, when you draft Jaden Daniels. And those are the things you had to worry about a little bit with Bo Nix, who turned out to be a little better athlete than maybe we gave him credit for and had a bigger arm. But those are legit concerns, and I think that's part of the reason why Shedeur might slip a little bit and maybe goes 5, 6, 7 as opposed to these two guys going 1 and 2.
Are you in the camp that Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter are the best 2 players in the draft?
Yeah, Travis is 1, and Abdul, in terms of sheer freakish athleticism, is 2. And I say that with the understanding that Travis Hunter is also insanely freakish. Those are guys you pick, and you're like, all right, I can go to sleep tonight and not worry about getting fired tomorrow as the general manager because those picks are going to almost certainly work out.
Ryan,
Okay,
so,
sorry, go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, just let me jump in because you mentioned that, and I'm looking at your last mock draft here. And look, 'tis the season for the mock draft, so we got to spice this up.
I read everyone or watch everyone. I love it.
Will Campbell, common pick. You have him fourth to the Patriots. I'm a Will Campbell guy, but right after him, you have your 2 best players in the draft. I understand the need argument. Sadly, I've spent a lot of time watching and rewatching the Patriots in my career, but why in your mind would they take Will Campbell over the seemingly consensus 2 best players in the draft to go 5th and 6th in your last mock?
Yeah, and they very well may not. But my thinking to this mock draft, which came out right after the Senior Bowl, so a couple weeks ago, and literally hours before Myles Garrett announced to the world that he didn't want to be in Cleveland. But my thinking with Will Campbell is this: the last 2 drafts, I applaud the Patriots for drafting offensive linemen. I continue to scratch my head as to why they didn't take any offensive tackles earlier. And I think if you have an opportunity to protect Drake May, at some point you got to do it. Now, look, you can spend all that money you have in free agency and get Ronnie Stanley or whomever in there if that's what you want to do. But some way, shape, or form, you got to get a tackle. Is Will Campbell the 4th best player? No. Is he a guy that can start on day one? Yes. I actually like Kelvin Banks a little bit better out of Texas, a little better athlete, maybe a little long-term upside. But we've seen those movies before, and they don't always work out. If you have a guy that you feel comfortable starting, and I get a lot of Andrew Whitworth vibes watching Will Campbell, sign me up and then let Drake May worry about other things like who he's going to throw the ball to.
Okay, and that's what I think is so interesting about the draft is that you might like a lineman better than the guy that might be taken well ahead of him. If you're a team, and it's not Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, is there a team in the top 10 that you think just might go like off the board completely? Like, is there not enough talent, like high-end talent, to ensure that, like, usually you guys are pretty right. Yeah, you guys are usually right about, like, where that players are first-round picks and things of that.
Yeah.
Is there a chance that, like, 5 through 10, there could be some team that just goes, look, I got this guy graded higher than anyone else, and there could be, like, a shock in there?
Yeah, and it's an interesting point because I think the draft media has gotten a little better about figuring out who the 40 or so guys are that are likely to be first-round picks just because we all have a lot of the same information. But there are those wild cards. Usually the Seattle Seahawks are the wild card team. They're not picking in the top 10. I think they pick 18th. But in terms of the top 10, there could be a team, and I wouldn't even be shocked if I'm pressed on it, but a team might love Tyler Warren, the tight end out of Penn State, or might love Colston Loveland, the tight end out of Michigan. Tight end class is deep, but those two guys are different. And if that player feels like the final piece to the puzzle that you're looking for in terms of what is essentially a wide receiver that's weighs 245 plus, maybe someone takes a chance on those two players earlier than we might expect. Another name might be Malachi Starks, a safety out of Georgia, who has tracked like 100-meter track speed, even though he plays in the secondary. Might be the smartest player in this draft class. He could have an opportunity to sneak into the top 10. All that said, if you told me these guys went between 20 and 32, I could see that as well, because the issue isn't finding the players. The issue is finding the fit that the teams think these players provide for them when they're going through the draft process.
Ryan, the Combine's next week. I'm sure you will be there. When you descend, give us a couple of first-round prospects, ideally who could fit the Patriots, who granted have all the needs in the world, that you're looking at this prospect and this drill or couple of drills that will tell you the most. This is what you need to know about this player who's going to be in the first round of the draft.
If I'm looking at the wide receivers, I like to make sure they can catch the ball. The gauntlet drill is incredibly stupid, and then you catch it and throw it down. But I still am very, not angry, but I come back to the fact that I could not believe that the Patriots traded down last year and passed on Ladd McConkey, because I said, this is the layup. Like, this is the easiest. This guy's a first-round talent. I know he's 180. He's going to be a difference maker, and that's exactly what it was in Los Angeles. So I think if you're looking for wide receivers, and I know we have the measurements and the baselines and all that stuff. Sometimes guys are just good football players, and if you're trying to help out this offense and Drake May, and I think Mike Vrabel probably understands that, just get good guys in there, guys that can catch, run after the catch. Pop Douglas, I love. He's undersized. You have to get a big receiver in there. So, again, whether that's through free agency or the draft, there are going to be a ton of wide receivers drafted, not as deep as last year's class, probably 2 or 3 or 4 in the first round. But I'll give you a name that I'm really high on, Matthew Golden out of Texas. They're not going to take him in the top 5, but he might be there at the top of the second. And another sprint speed guy and who just runs for days and gets open all the time. And that feels like someone that Drake May could certainly get old together with.
Is McMillan, there's debate about McMillan and how he stacks up against the receivers that were taken, because there's so many good receivers taken last year. Is McMillan does he have an advantage because this draft is weak at the top at wide receiver, or is he a stud?
Knowing what we knew last year at the draft, I don't think Brian Thomas would have gone higher if we knew he was going to do what he did. Last year, T-Mac is probably going to be wide receiver 3, Malik, and then Marvin Harrison, maybe 3 or 4 in that range. It'd be close. Like Rome Odunze, and he would probably be very closely graded. Rome went 9th overall. And, you watch him play, the guy, all he does is catch passes and run past people. I sort of joke all the time, 50-yard bombs to him are like 1-yard handoffs. Like he makes everything look simple. And, we're the time of year where we start knocking guys because we're out of things to talk about. But I just go back to what a scout told me over the summer. He's basically a more athletic Drake London, and I think that's exactly what he is. He's a huge target for Drake May or whomever he's catching passes from next year.
Ryan, you called him T-Mac, which means you're one of us, and that all of us are scared to say the full first name of this prospect who goes by Tet in some circles. Can you pronounce, as it was once said here, Tatawa? The first name of this beloved receiver from Arizona?
I love that you got in my head the wrong way to say it. Tetaroa McMillan, I believe, is how he goes.
Tetaroa
is a Christian name.
Are you guys both sure about this?
It's his fault.
I'm 91% sure.
91%?
Listen, if you're going to look at, no one can pronounce toucher. I had to change the spelling of it. It's his fault. Go change the spelling of your first name.
Tetaroa.
It's too much.
There you go. Got it.
Absolutely. All right, Ryan Wilson. Watch him, read him, everything else at CBSSports.com. Fantastic insight. Thank you so much for the time, sir.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we appreciate it. What's interesting about that is that he really likes Cam Ward.
Yeah,
he says Cam Ward is better than Bo Nix.
That's the first person
better
I've
than
heard to say
J.J. McCarthy.
I haven't heard anyone else say that, so that's new news. He has Cam Ward number 1 in his mock draft, but
a lot of guys do.
I would have a really hard time if I'm a Patriots fan that Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter are sitting there at 4 and you pass on both of them. I would have a really hard time if the Patriots took Will Campbell over both those guys.
Oh, you
I
can't.
would not like it.
No, you can't draft for need. You got to draft. I think you agree with that, Andrew. You don't draft for need in the first round.
Yes, I think you treat free agency, this is generally, as to address and fill your needs. Then you go to the draft and find where's the best talent that we can identify.
But-
and to me, if your top 2 picks are still available.
I don't care if you've added a pass rusher. I don't care if you added Joey Bosa. If Abdul Carter is sitting there at 4, you still take him.
Again, the notion of not taking a pass rusher is funny to me. The lead team that Myles Garrett is supposed to be, that could be traded to, are the Lions, who have Aiden Hutchinson.
Right.
I mean, if you're
And
a
they
good team,
traded-
you have a good team.
And they traded for Hassan. They didn't know it was going to work, but they traded it for Hassan Reddick. You know, I mean, you get guys. You just keep getting
the
guys.
Jets traded for Hassan Reddick, and it was a disaster.
Didn't they release Reddick?
It's a Darius
No.
Smith, which we all
That's
remember.
Darius
I
Smith.
got
I'm
to
thinking it was
break
a
on
Darius
this show.
Smith.
Hassan Reddick was a disaster.
My
Hassan
mistake.
Reddick cost himself legitimately about $35 million by his
But
behavior.
yeah, the Patriots. I don't care who they get in free agency. They could get a tackle.
But
I don't care.
because
They
of
draft
Joe
another
Milton and the way he played in that final game, you have to sit there and pray that Shedeur Sanders is taken in the top 5, top 3.
Yeah,
because Cam Ward probably will be, but you got to pray Shedeur Sanders. And Shedeur Sanders, I just don't understand him as a prospect. What do I know? But I did see him play a lot.
Yeah.
And I saw him get hit a lot. That is true.
I also saw him be unable to run away from guys.
He's not
he can
fast.
take punishment like nobody else.
He's not fast, and he doesn't have like an electric arm or anything. I mean, you know, Tom Brady was slow and didn't have an electric arm either. But
if he played any other position, it would be no question he'd be drafted outside the top 3. You have to hope that somebody's nuts or one of these teams in the top 3 is like, we need a quarterback. Yes, he might not be the best guy, but we must take a quarterback.
he is tough. He had negative 50 rushing yards for the season, so he was getting hit a lot.
That's a college football quirk, though. All the sacks get counted as negative rushing yards.
No, I know. It just shows he got hit a lot.
And I think, too, he's got a trait, though, that I think has been more important now than ever, in that you have all these college quarterbacks who are majoring in, before they get to the college level, these private coaches say, you need to play make. What do you do on your second reaction? You're outside the pocket. Shedeur Sanders did a ton of that at Colorado, some by necessity because their offensive line stunk. But number 2, you just want to make those type of plays. That's what you've been coached to do. The challenge now for the NFL is, can you get that out of quarterbacks? The Patriots did with Drake May. All the YOLO ball, we didn't really see that last year, and that's what made him so good. He played on time and from the pocket. Can you do the same with Shedeur Sanders? I don't know. I do know every Patriots fan should be rooting for Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders to get as rave reviews as possible at the Combine and beyond to go in the top 3.
Well, look, you got to be able to extend plays at quarterback. I mean, you just do.
Yes.
I mean, the defensive linemen are better than the offensive linemen. They are, and they're going to get to you. And you got to be able to extend plays. I saw a guy for 17 games be unable to extend plays and just sit there and take sacks.
Except for that one game against the Patriots in Week 3, where he looked fantastic.
But then for some unknown reason, he got all hurt. Like I don't even know what happened in that game. It seemed like kind of an exhibition, but what do I know? All right, we'll be back. The award-winning email segment that everybody loves. Robert De Niro's on television right now, and he does look like a grandpa. All right, he even has a cardigan on. All right, we'll be back. I don't know. He let me in because I lost my card again.
Oh, yeah.
But he was at parts unknown out there. I asked him if he was going number 2, but he said no. And so I have to do a full investigation. But maybe it's better he's not in the room because this is about Nick.
It's more of a pee-pee walk, I'd say.
It says, Fred, I love that. Well, he went a long way for it. Fred, I love the show and have always enjoyed listening when I could. I work in the morning and I can't listen to you live, so I'm forced to rely on the stream. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad it exists because otherwise I'd miss out. But why does the stream omit the 4th hour so often, making me wait until the next afternoon to hear it? WTF do you pay Nick for anyways? Still love the show and will always put up with the shenanigans. Thanks for being the best morning show in the late afternoon. And that is Nicholas. We get lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of complaints about the podcast. And I just can't. I can't go to Nicholas every day and say what's going on because he gets very defensive. And you know how that goes.
Apparently, hour 4 was a problem yesterday. There were extenuating circumstances out of Nick's control.
What were the extenuating circumstances?
Well, we had trouble with
the internet.
The internet.
Oh yeah, the internet was down
show.
here the entire day. Oh yeah.
So I mean that yesterday was not Nick's fault.
But you know, managing Nick is it takes some getting used to. You have to know how to manage different people, and managing Nick is you cannot come after him every day, because if you do, he becomes very fatigued. You have to pick your spots. He can shut down, Nicholas.
We have multiple people who are correcting us on our porn knowledge. We were talking about Gronk holding up that jersey of a porn star when he was a rookie, and I had a wrongly said it was somebody else. I have 5 people here who emailed me and said Gronk's star was B.B. Jones, jackass. Okay, very sorry I got that wrong.
Brie Olson's super hot.
Yes, Brie Olson is super hot. I was just congratulating myself for knowing that.
I think Brie Olson was one of the ones that was with Charlie Sheen.
Okay.
This I don't know anything of this B.B. Jones. Like I'd never seen her in pornography.
Okay.
Because the Brie Olson, the reason you mentioned that is she kind of transcended porn. She became like kind of TMZ famous for a while.
Okay.
Mark says, hope Dan is cool after all the sex talk yesterday. For some reason, it's a lot of fun to put him on the spot, and his refusal to answer the sex questions is probably funnier than the actual answer. What's funny about Dan is that the other day, someone asked him, like, what's your favorite part of your wife? Like, is it her brains?
Oh, yeah.
And then Dan wouldn't answer it, meaning that, and then Dan after the break, like during the break was like, did I just say that my wife's mind wasn't my favorite part of it? Like he doesn't even know what he's shutting down about half the time. He just shuts down. He doesn't even know. He's all over the place.
Throws sex at you.
Yeah. But then he asks a good question. Does anyone else find themselves thinking about Hardy while doing things around the house? I shoveled out the fire hydrant across the street and thought, ooh, man, Hardy would love this. And that's from Chopper. I think about, I wish Hardy shared a driveway with me because I know Hardy would do the entire driveway.
Oh, and would love it. He'd ask if, hey, you got a back patio?
And every time I walk down the ice path, which is the end of the driveway, which I do not believe is my responsibility, I do think of Hardy. That is odd that you mentioned it. I do think of Hardy.
Do you have a snow blower, or are you shoveling? What are you doing?
No, I live in an apartment, and so I'm beholden to whomever is in charge of the sidewalks, and there are multiple units in the building. But I will say I feel like I've been walking on ice for over a month. Like it is so thick, and I realize it's a result of multiple storms and all this different stuff. But I am surprised that I've not eaten bleep yet just walking to and from my car the last 3-4 weeks.
I have, but what saved me is snow piles. I've been able to catch myself on snow piles. My dog requires an hour of walking a day. It just does. He needs an hour-long walk. Like he does. Now, he seems kind of cool about the ice, like looking out for me, because it's the only time ever when he's on ice he'll look back at me to like see if I'm all right. But he still does pull it in inopportune times because like he figures once he's off the ice, because then he takes off. Like once he's on the ice, he's careful, and he looks back at me. I do think we have a connection there. But once I'm still on the ice and he gets on the ground, he starts like kind of pulling.
I have that problem too. Your dog is what, 25, 30 pounds?
I think my dog's 40 pounds.
Okay, my dog is 60 pounds. And I have...
Then my dog's not. My dog's 35 pounds.
Yeah,
Can you get your dog a dog jacket?
No.
The dog
No,
coat. Thank
hell
God.
no.
Yeah, the
No.
biggest scam going, right?
No.
Yeah, I don't know if those are necessary, but all I know is if you go to a dog park, watch out for the owners of the dogs in jackets.
Yes.
They're everywhere where I live, which
Yeah.
is not going to be disclosed. But I just
You
look
can't
and go,
tell where you live.
You're wasting your
it will
money
be too much.
And my
Andrew,
sister,
don't say it. You'll get so much paparazzi. John, don't let anyone know you live in Natick. It would be too much for them.
my sister has a pug, which has since multiplied because now my parents have two, and she has multiple jackets and little booties. And I get their feet in this type of cold, whatever.
Little booty's not going to be very popular nowadays.
The next time you want to go buy a coat, just give me the money. Like he's got the coat is built in. They're dogs. They have coats.
Some of them get cold in the cold air, I guess. What do I know about it? But I will tell you that they're a problem. The owners are a problem at the dog park because they want every dog to behave like they're not dogs. Once you let a dog off the leash, short of them biting another dog or biting a human, like it's kind of like you got to just let them be dogs. To be so controlling is to want not only your own dog, and then the owners of those dogs. Do you ever see someone whose dog's really well behaved, but it almost looks like they've just given up?
Yeah. Yes, I have.
Yeah.
And it was at the last time I was at the dog park, I saw this. She was pointing sternly at the dog. I only saw it. I didn't hear what she was saying, but she was talking to the dog from across the way, and she pointed a stern finger, and the dog looked up with the sad eyes and sat down.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like sometimes I think you've just
help me.
Yeah, you've just taken the life out of them.
I know.
Like you've gotten them so subservient to you that you've just taken the life out of them. The notion of controlling 10 dogs at a dog park is asinine.
Well.
Like it's asinine. It's short of again a bite to anyone, like super aggressive behavior. You got to let it be. I told you the lady was throwing a ball, and she goes, "I don't want to share." Like I'm supposed to tell my dog, "Hey, that ball, like don't go after it." Like you know. Like how do you train a dog not to chase after a specific ball? I don't understand that. Maybe there is a way.
Can't even go by color.
No, it's ridiculous.
It's a ball. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And then they want it back, like immediately. And then once my dog knows you want something back from him, unless you got some food, he's protecting that. He ain't letting go. I've tried to get stuff out of his mouth. I even tried to pry his lips.
Oh,
that's
dangerous territory there.
He bit me one time. It didn't hurt that bad, so I'm not afraid. But I tried to do that because I was so much pressure on me, and I couldn't even get his jaws open.
Yeah.
Because he's very strong. Go ahead.
We have a suggestion on what to do. We were talking about what the NHL is going to do. You can't have the Four Nations face-off every year. You got the World Cup coming up. This is from Dylan. Here's how the NHL should handle this. Year 1, World Cup. Year 2, Winter Classic. Year 3, Olympics. Year 4, Winter Classic. I assume that means a Winter Classic game, instead of the All-Star break. Just have one Winter Classic game. Instead of having it on January 1st, have it in February. And maybe you have an All-Star team, but the All-Star teams play outdoors every year.
That's fine. That's not a bad idea. You know what they did? This is another example of why you don't do an international competition every year. What died quicker than the hype around the Winter Classic?
Exactly, which is why no one cares that it's on New Year's Day anymore.
No one cares.
No.
You forget that it's on. No one cares. Like you can wear these things out pretty quickly.
And that would be a revenue generator. You could have different cities bid for the Winter Classic instead of the All-Star break, whatever. I mean, you'd say Chicago has it at Wrigley Field one year, back at Fenway Park down in Miami in February, where people would love to go. Gillette Stadium, whatever. But that's another revenue generator for the National Hockey League. You'd have cities actively bidding for it every February.
Sure, I'm all for that, but I mean, teams are not going to
every other February.
Teams are not going to want to do the not going to want to have exhibitions where the players are hidden. I can tell you that. Mitch says, I have to say, Callahan has been a good fill-in today. Much better fill-in than that Disney Stepford wife Dan Roach.
Wow.
Fred, you can't write emails to yourself and pass it off to somebody else.
Says, finally, you guys have someone who can protect Wallach from being bullied by Zolak. He's talking about your prowess in the gym. That's Mitch in New Bedford.
Thanks for being here for that.
You got it. I have an angry email from last week, if we'd like this.
Sure.
Why not?
So I wrote a 5-part series, started the offseason. Part 1 was signed T. Higgins or Chris Godwin. Okay, obviously things have changed. Kyle writes, I get you want people to read your current top 5 offseason article, but trading for Higgins trading for Higgins would bury the Patriots long term, where they could go full 2007 and build an entire wide receiver room by free agency and trades. So I'm already confused. Suggest trading for a bunch of guys and DK Metcalf and Deebo Samuel and all this. I'm on board. Hi, Kyle. Thanks for reading and writing. This is part 1 of a series, blah, blah, blah. Send my response saying, hey, I would prefer just to give guys money, not give up money and assets in a trade, which is more expensive. Andrew, you just mansplained me as if I am not uninformed Patriots homer. Usually people who write to reporters and cite evidence from over 15 years ago that was a model of success for that time should be given the "yeah, good point, haven't thought about that" response, more than the absurd amount of words you use to defend the most ridiculous take on Higgins since a Jaguars wide receiver with gambling and substance abuse problems, Calvin Ridley, which was last offseason's fervor. As if I have been watching the Patriots since 2000 or have football IQ running through my veins.
That is someone with an inordinate amount of time.
I was just going to say, most emails are, 100 words or less?
I mean, we heard...
That was the top third of his response to my response.
Top third?
It was a man who said mansplaining?
Yes.
They live in Brookline.
I mean, he has football IQ running through his veins.
And he also tweed coats and a lot of complaining to the neighbors. I mean, that sounds like if a man said mansplaining, which is a stupid term anyway, it's just another ridiculous term that's come out, and a guy says it, that screams Brookline to me.
Could be.
I will tell you this, is that, with Bird talking about how he slid into that girl's DMs on Instagram and they ended up dating, I wonder what's more psycho, slipping into a girl's DMs to ask her to go out or sending a 10,000-word email to a reporter you've never met.
It's neck and neck.
Have you ever had the instinct to write to a newspaper, magazine, any reporter to talk about how you disagree with their article?
No.
You just read the article.
Well, now we have Twitter for that. But yeah, they're
even
more
when I was a
common than you would
kid,
think.
not even writing a letter back when people wrote letters. I never thought about doing any of that.
There was I'll give you an example. Is that on ESPN this morning, they were on the radio. They were, I guess, Around the Horn's still there. I don't know. I guess it's still a thing. Okay. And I'm not being cute. I thought it was
it's ending
going
this
away.
summer.
Okay, thank you.
Well, that's too bad.
I wasn't being cute. Yeah, it's too bad. You watch it all the time. And all of them said that baseball doesn't have a problem with a salary cap. They have a problem with there not being a salary floor. And that's ludicrous. So if you make the floor $200 million and the Dodgers pay $600 million, that's still a huge inequity between the teams. Every other sport has a salary cap. Why is it so? Because you know why? Because they talk to the players and they become friends with them. That's why.
That's one thing that I will hold the line on. There's going to be no baseball in 2027.
There's not going to be baseball in 2027.
The CBA expires December 1, 2026. You see, if you've been reading the last couple of weeks, I'm losing money. Owners are making sure they reach the media. We've lost money. We can't pay for this. We can't pay for that. The owners are ganging up on each other. Well, actually, everyone's ganging up on Cohen and the Dodgers at this point.
Well, even if these owners are just interested in making money and they're not going to spend money,
they are.
So even if that's the case, that's a problem for the sport.
Yeah.
And the only way to rectify that is to have a salary cap. So you can give any reason for it that makes the owners look terrible, or maybe they are terrible. And there's teams that the owners are like just hauling in money and they're keeping all the money. That's fine. But to have a competitive balance, there has to be a salary cap.
Yeah, 2 years from now,
make
we
a
will not
floor
have baseball.
too.
Yeah.
I don't care. Have a salary cap floor and a salary cap. Put both. That's what you give the Players Association. You said in order to have the cap, we'll have a floor. That means more money for average players.
Yeah.
And there you go. That's fixed.
I think what you could do too is the NBA has a soft cap, right? If you want to go up and above, you're going to pay some penalties, which have now basically turned it into a hard cap, the way that you can't make certain trades or aggregate salary in trades or only sign certain players. If you want to put those rules in place, because I think the MLB union will be like, this is a non-starter. We're not going back. This is it. If you want to penalize yourselves in the process to provide some sort of competitive balance, theoretically.
Bird rights aren't a bad idea for baseball.
That I think might be a compromise.
Yeah, you just need a salary cap. I don't care if it's soft, if there's bird rights, if it's the most confusing thing in the world. Yep. All I know is that you can pay Shohei Ohtani $1 billion and spread it out over 1 billion years. It's completely ridiculous.
It's free market, though.
It shouldn't be.
Why?
Because it's inequity in the teams. If there are only two teams that are going to compete, For any free agent, it just makes the sport terrible.
If you draft perfectly over a 5-year span, you turn into Kansas City, who had maybe a year or two where they were a threat to win it all. Kansas City starts this season. You think they have any chance at all based on what the Dodgers spent, what the Yankees are spending, even the Red Sox? Do you think that any of these small market teams like Tampa Bay or Kansas City, or just name one, they're starting camp, pitchers and catchers have just begun. Is there any illusion that you have a chance at a championship?
Whether they have a chance or not, I'm not going to blame anybody else but the owners of those teams for not giving their teams, their markets, their fans, their own players, their employees a shot to do the championship.
But
spend more, be better. Like, I'm not going to give a break to the guy who moved the Oakland A's to Sacramento so he could just build a stadium in Las Vegas, scoring Oakland and Sacramento out of a team briefly. Be better.
Did you
spend more?
If the NFL didn't have a salary cap, would it be as popular as it is?
I have no idea. I think
the answer to that is absolutely not. Green Bay wouldn't have a team. Buffalo wouldn't have a team. Jacksonville wouldn't have a team. There's no way that a market like Green Bay could survive without a salary cap. It would be the same problem. There's a reason there's a salary cap in these sports. Owners are greedy, fine. That's fine, but there has to be a solution to that. And put a floor in if you want to.
I don't think that's true, though, because you've had more dynasties. You want to talk about inequity in competition. You've had more recent dynasties in the NFL and in the NBA, and you could even argue the NHL, than you have in the Major League Baseball. Despite the Dodgers spending all of this money, the last dynasty in baseball, you go back to the Yankees at the turn of the millennium.
That's fine, but also you have a chance of competing in Green Bay, and you have a chance of competing in Buffalo. That does not exist, and that does not exist in Major League Baseball.
Dodgers are a lock to make the playoffs every year.
Yes, and you have to be good at what you do to get better in the NFL. You don't have to be as a owner.
Yeah, but Kansas City won a World Series more recently than Green Bay won a Super Bowl.
Okay, but Kansas City's won a World Series. Kansas City Chiefs have won a World Series or a Super Bowl more recently than Kansas City Royals have won a World Series.
I don't ascribe the equity here, or the parity, whatever you want to call it, to the fact that owners have put an artificial limit on themselves from spending each other into oblivion, because that is what would happen if there was no salary cap. You can see it in baseball. What I ascribe that to is that you have a shorter season with more injuries and more just variance in the entire sport, unpredictability that allows that to happen. The reason that the best teams are the best teams year in and year out is not just because of the spending in baseball. It's because the season's longer and it's more predictive. You don't know what's going to happen in the NFL. That's a function of a short
spending
season.
In baseball, you almost ensure yourself a better chance of making the playoffs. You're getting better players. There's no doubt about it. Having Ohtani and Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman on a team, and then getting everyone else under the sun.
Yamamoto.
And getting everyone else under the sun, and then not even paying them in real money.
Take a look at the playoff teams. The teams that were in the American and National League Championship Series, of those 4 teams, 3 of them, I believe, were in the top 5 in spending.
We've had it right here in Boston. You should be upset at your owners for not spending as much as they can, not mad at the Dodgers owners for doing what they should be doing and everyone else should be doing. Like, this inequity is not because the Dodgers ruined baseball. It's because too many owners are sitting on their hands, counting their dollar bills, keeping them to themselves.
But there's no way to make them spend money. And so even if that's true what you're saying, there's no way to make them do it. So you got to find some way to get parity. And that the only way you're going to do that is to put a salary cap on baseball. Every other sport has one. Make it loose. I don't care how you do it.
Well, you
but
also
there's
expand
gotta
the
be more
playoff,
parity.
which they just did. You get more teams into the dance. You have shorter series where a bounce of the ball or some bad luck or a great start by an underdog carries more weight.
Cleveland got to the playoffs and won the Central, which is a terrible division, by doing this. We can't get anyone – you want to talk about hurting the game. We can't sign any starters. So what we're going to do is we're going to find 100 dumbasses that can throw 95 to 100 miles an hour, and we're going to trot them out every other inning.
That's Tampa.
And that's how we're going to win. And it's horrible for baseball. What baseball is interesting is a Verlander up against a Mookie Betts in a pressure situation. That's what you want. Not Hoosie McGee, who throws 99 and gets Tommy John surgery 5 days into the season. And a collection of nobodies. I defy you to tell me 2 pitchers on the Cleveland staff off the top of your head.
Tanner Bibby and
there you go. All right, so we're already very late.
Hold on, though. I just want to say this for baseball.
Andrew, there's a clock. We're supposed to play. We're 7 minutes late.
We're less than 2 years removed from Rangers Diamondbacks, the last season each league making the World Series.
Fantastic, but you're still going into
There's
a
parity.
season where 28 teams aren't going to compete for anything. That's just the facts. All right, we'll be back in just a moment.
Essential Sports Hub headline presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
The Four Nations face-off final is at TD Garden tonight. The U.S. will play Canada. Matthew Tkachuk and Austin Matthews both back out at practice. Both are expected to play along with Brady Tkachuk, who did not practice yesterday due to illness. Bruins once again without Hampus Lindholm at practice yesterday. He did not skate with the main group. Celtics play their first game coming out of the All-Star break tonight in Philadelphia.
7 words.
A guy in tights and a cape.
And Hardy with blunt honesty.
I am not known as Mr. Fun.
Toucher and Hardy continues on the Sports Hub. We know what you're thinking. What could I possibly have missed from the show? It's time for The Stack on Toucher and Hardy.
It is. And this hour of Toucher and Hardy is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel due to our heated sports debate. We are a little limited on time. Adam would have been going absolutely ballistic.
God. He would. I've never seen Adam angry. He probably would have been angry.
I've seen Adam angry. But I'm friends with him. I've been friends with Adam for like 20 years.
I know.
Jesus Christ.
I know.
Sorry,
I'm
Adam.
so old.
We got a couple of things here real quick.
Oh, he can't hear you. He's in New Hampshire in some cabin.
Maine?
New Hampshire to Maine.
Yeah, New Hampshire first, then Maine.
The worst week in the history of recorded man.
According to Consequence magazine, late Alice in Chains singer Lane Staley's lost journals will be published in November, Fred.
How do you feel about that when you're dead and then someone publishes your journals?
I think that sucks. I don't want that.
But it is interesting to read these things. Mark Lanigan, who was the singer of the Screaming Trees, had Lane Staley at his house one time, or went over to Lane Staley's house, and Lane Staley was in the bathroom because Lane Staley shot cocaine, which is a whole situation. Like you're really, you're actively shooting intravenously like all the time. Like heroin, you like shoot up, you're not out. You know, a few hours later, you shoot up again. The cocaine you're doing all the time.
I learned so much on this show.
So anyway, Lane Staley is
like you didn't know
is behind the toilet on his knees, and Lanigan goes, "So what are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm talking to these stupid ants." And he goes, "Oh," and he leaves, and he comes back the next day, and Lane Staley's in the same position. He hasn't left, and he has to get Lane Staley to he decides at that point, maybe we should go to the hospital. You've been hallucinating for 24 hours on your hands and knees in a bathroom behind a toilet. Maybe we should do this. Don't shoot cocaine.
Very, very important.
More.
If you take nothing else out of this show.
And you don't even know if it's cocaine now. It could be fentanyl. I know people who survived. I met a guy that survived. He snorted fentanyl thinking it was cocaine, and he died for like a period of time. Like he was dead. It killed him. It like stopped his heart. And then they revived him. Like Narcan or something. I don't know how they did it. I didn't really ask questions, but it's a very real situation. All right, what else? One more.
I know you're upset NYPD Blue is gone, but Donnie Wahlberg lives on. CBS has bought a spin-off series, Donnie Wahlberg, starring in Boston Blue this fall. He's leaving his family in New York and taking a position in the Boston Police Department. I can't wait.
Are they shooting that here?
I don't know. I didn't. It doesn't say whether or not they're shooting.
Do you remember when they were shooting the Mark Wahlberg movie in Dorchester when we were down there?
Oh yeah, all the roads were closed. A lot of fun.
Yeah, they closed every road.
I know.
They had a big pile of snow in the summer somewhere. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. The best was when Detroit was still a real piece of garbage, and they let the Transformers people take Woodward Avenue downtown and just use it. So there was a prop of a car being buried into Woodward.
Yeah.
That would be like taking Boylston in the middle of Boston and just going, take it. And like no one cared. It was just like, fine, take it. Who cares? You couldn't do that now, thankfully.
No.
At the time you could.
No.
Unless you're riding a bike, then Boylston's. Actually, no, they just pulled those out.
Yeah, I don't drive downtown, so it's not my concern. I will only take rideshare into the city. I don't want to deal with parking.
So we have Dan Roach tomorrow. Is that right?
Danny Roach is in tomorrow.
Andrew, good to see you.
Yeah, Andrew,
Great
great
to be
job
here, guys.
today. It was a pleasure
A lot of
having
fun.
you co-host. You will be in the rotation. Don't worry. Come summer, if you're around, get ready to make some extra cash.
I'll be here. 2 stats and live from you next time, I heard.
Yes, I will do that. That will require preparation, and I will